Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I am a dissident.
Don't move. Move.
I'm saying no. Why you hear Palantir, 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 Palantir? It's not going to stop.
Seriously, we need to release the F-scene list.
Turns off.
I am not a church boy.
Turns off.
They're full-on vampires.
They hate our beef. They hate our beef. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Thursday midday edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
Russell's got his movie shirt on today because it's movie night for the patrons. Film Club in partnership and collaboration with our friends at Right Brain TV. That's going to start at 7 o'clock tonight. We're going to be live on YouTube and Rumble for everybody for a couple of segments, and then we're going to go to the members only zone for Film Club. Rumble Premium members will have access, as well as, of course, our members. You'll be emailed the link this afternoon. Russ picked a movie this time, Aussie by marriage that he is.
Yes.
What's our presentation for the evening for the cool kids?
Dead End Drive-In. So I have not seen this one, but it's pretty typical of a lot of these cult movies in the 80s. Had a pretty interesting kind of campy dystopia satire thing going on. So it's basically you go to the drive-in and they lock you in to the police state that you have to live in, and you can't escape once you're in there, and they just try to distract you with drive-in food and movies.
There you go. Awesome.
It's my kind of shit. If you even go back and you watch Cyndi Lauper's She-Bop video, it's very much coming out of that aesthetic.
Awesome. Should be a real fun time. We are, of course, doing this in collaboration with Right Brain TV, who has this amazing library of films that they have curated. And so it's great to be in collaboration with them. They have set up a really cool thing for dissidents. You do not have to be a paid member of Do Dissidents for this coupon code to work for you. Anybody can use this, rightbraintv.com. DD 2026 gets you 40% off an annual subscription to their site, which has a library of films that is far too deep for us to ever cover, going once a month the way we do now. They have a ton of really cool stuff there, and so it's a great resource for dissident cinema from all around the world. So DD 2026 gets you 40% off an annual membership. So please do take advantage of that if you are so inclined. But tonight we will be live at 7 o'clock for everybody, and then we're going to do a couple segments on the public airwaves. Will be about probably 30-40 minutes worth of bonus show for everybody, and then we will move to the members only room for Film Club. So patreon.com/do dissidents if you'd like to sign up to get access to that, and we will of course be taking your calls after the film presentation is complete. So that should be a lot of fun. Thanks everybody very much for being here. We got 732 strong in the YouTube chat, 155 filing in over on the Rumble chat. So thanks everybody very much once again. Please do smash that like button. Please do smash that subscribe button. Russ has a video for Russ on the Road that is premiering immediately following the conclusion of this program.
Yes, I finally got to the Me Live Part 2. That's part of why there's been a delay for the second video coming out. That one is much more involved than most of what I would do, which is just picking the best clips and putting them together. This involved like archival research and interviews with the people who committed the massacre of My Lai in there. So yeah, that one's pretty intense. I'm pretty proud of it. And I feel like it's an important video in terms of putting our current war crimes in context of our earlier war crimes, which we never stopped committing. So definitely check it out. I'd appreciate it. That's the kind of video that I really want to see get a lot of views. Everybody likes to see the goldfish eating the dead skin off your feet. That's an easy sell.
It's an easy sell.
But atrocities in My Lai, that's a little harder. So definitely check it out.
Yeah, that'll be premiering right after this. YouTube viewers will be redirected to that stream right at the end of the show. Everybody else, if you're watching on Rumble, that's the link right there, youtube.com/RussOnTheRoad NYC, to watch that right after our show. So let's get our show started, shall we?
Let's do it.
Something's going on here. Did I load in the wrong thing to start this? Hold on. Hang on a second. Here, why don't you take a few super chats? I think I loaded in the wrong one, or maybe I didn't.
Did you? All right,
Yeah.
let me come. Yeah,
I definitely did. I had one labeled from the last show that I loaded in by accident. So hang on. I just got to figure out which one is here.
Vienticus Prime, fill in the blanks. Everything's a blank. Everything's a tomato.
Yeah.
Everything's a crown. And so you don't splat. I half expected ad-lib this. Well, I met your expectation.
By the way, Vienticus, I am passing by the P.O. box tomorrow, so I will pick up the stuff tomorrow, and we should be able to put an ad in for your book on Sunday. So that should be coming up. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of exciting and fun.
I still got to go to the one that I set up for the trip. I have not gotten around to it. Yeah, man. I still have not gotten around to going over there. I mean, nobody uses snail mail anymore. I don't get anything but junk mail anyway.
Right.
Right. I can't imagine there's anything important sitting there. Oh, George. Vienticus, wrong. Things that New Jersey has that I definitely don't. Bagel with a schmear. Decent cheeseburgers everywhere. Restaurants that serve pig and egg for breakfast. Holidays without air raid sirens. Yeah, it's funny, man. There's a lot of stuff that you might not normally eat that if you leave America for that long, you will crave it just because you can't get it. It's really psychological, man. Like, I never eat cheeseburgers. I never eat it. Maybe twice in a year. I'm craving cheeseburgers. Why? Because you can't get it.
Right.
I mean, you can, but not really. Not really. So it's true. Like, even if you don't normally eat that food, you crave it when you can't get it. And then there are the things that you really do eat that you can't get. Like, I crave tuna fish sandwiches. I really crave like mayonnaise, like gloppy mayonnaise in a tuna fish sandwich. Oh, George. And you bastards calling me a sneaky Israeli. Yeah. We all know what you meant to say. Motherfuckers.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, oh, George. You caught us. All right, I'm ready. I grabbed it.
You ready?
Sorry about
Rock
that,
and
folks.
Roll. All right, go for it.
You know what it is? I label a lot of videos Trump. And so I had one video labeled Trump, and I uploaded it in the last show. But, Trump is kind of in the news a lot nowadays, That is a fact of life that we have to live with. All right, everybody.
Do you have this? A lot of times the title you want to give your video is one you've already used. So you have to give it a different title.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Got to think of it. All righty, everybody. Well, let's get started right now with some up-to-the-minute developments from the Middle East. And by up-to-the-minute, we mean nearly obsolete by now, because what was this from? This was from 10 o'clock last night, long time ago already. U.S. launches airstrikes in Iran, but says ceasefire still holds. See, it's an Israeli-style ceasefire. It's a ceasefire where we get to keep firing. The U.S. said Wednesday that it launched new airstrikes on Iran and took out 4 drones, even as a broader ceasefire still holds in the nearly 3-month-old conflict. I thought this was a 47-year-old conflict. What happened to that?
Isn't that what they said?
It's not 3 months. It's 47 years. We've been in a war for 47 years. We're just doing this because we had to, because no one else was willing to finish the war that Iran started back in 1979. See, this is the liberal media. This is the anti-American, subversive, Politico. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I don't know what they're talking about. 3 months.
They're still at it, even without the USAID money.
Exactly. Even without the USAID money. The airstrike struck a military site along the southern coast of Iran that was deemed a threat to American forces and commercial maritime traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, a U.S. official told Politico. The strikes were accompanied by U.S. forces downing 4 Iranian drones that also posed a threat, said the official, granted anonymity to provide the details on strikes that were first reported by Reuters. U.S. forces also struck an Iranian ground control station in Bandar Abbas that was about to launch a 5th drone, the official said. These actions were measured, purely defensive, and intended to maintain the ceasefire. The attacks come amid the ongoing negotiations to end the U.S. and Israeli joint military campaign in Iran, which has led to thousands of deaths and spiked oil prices worldwide. The larger ceasefire between the sides continues to hold, despite the strikes in the Arabian Gulf Coast over the past several days. President Donald Trump told reporters Wednesday a deal could be reached, but hinted that if a deal doesn't come together, we will just have to finish the job. The strikes marked the second U.S. attack in Iran in a week. On Monday, the U.S. said it conducted a self-defense strikes in southern Iran on several targets, including missile launch sites and Iranian boats attempting to plant mines in the Strait of Hormuz. The president rejected a proposal on Wednesday that would see Iran and Oman, a key facilitator of behind-the-scenes talks, oversee maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, a critical passageway through which about 20% of the world's oil travels. Trump insisted that Iran should not have any control over the waterway, which he wants to be treated as an international body of water, while adding that he wants the U.S. to, quote, watch over it. Watch over it. So here he is.
Just going to keep an eye on it.
We're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to watch over it, he says. Let's take a look at the video here. Right up there it is.
Strait of Hormuz. Would you accept a short-term deal that allows Iran and Oman to control the strait? And would they have to open it immediately, or would you be open to that happening over a period of time?
No, the strait's going to be open to everybody.
And who would control it?
It's international waters. Nobody's going to control it. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up. They understand that. They'll be fine.
They'll be fine. We'll just have to blow them up if they don't behave.
To get the Strait of Hormuz open.
We're the good guys.
Well,
folks.
you have to say, the United States has so much oil that we are an exporter of oil. So we have plenty of oil. We're very lucky. We're blessed with the greatest piece of land in the world from that standpoint, and we have more than anybody else. And now when you add Venezuela to it, we have, I think, 64% of the world's oil.
Venezuela.
And we're getting along very well.
I thought it was about
Venezuela,
narco-trafficking.
It's being run really beautifully. The big companies are moving in. It's going to be amazing because it's also, like us, they're very blessed in that sense. But we have natural energy that no other country has. We have more than anybody else. So it's really a world problem because most of the world doesn't have that. And we're making it available. During the closing, I don't know if you've seen some of the satellite pictures, boats, hundreds of boats lined up. It looks like, I used to say, the Long Island Expressway with cars. They're lined up and they're coming to Texas, Louisiana, they're coming to Alaska to fill up their boat, their big boat. Some of them are really big, 2 billion gallons, even bigger than that now they make them. They make them up to 4, Chris, I hear. Now they make them up to 4. The 4 are now the big ones. Used to be the 1s. Now it's 4 million barrels of, think of that, 4 million barrels of oil in one boat. But they're lined up and they're right now heading to Texas, and they've already filled up and they've gone back. In addition to that, you have a lot of boats, you have about 1,400 boats in the strait wanting to get out, and at the right time we'll release them.
But the American people, sir, are seeing higher gas prices.
Yeah,
Now, it's
they
come down a little bit, but it's still $4.45.
Oh, it'll come down a lot. It'll come down to where it was before. We had it when I was in Iowa. We had driving by and we saw gas stations, $1.90 a gallon, $1.85, $1.87 with a three.
That was off the old Route 66. They've been
Yeah.
closed since 1958.
They've been closed since 1991. You know, you can get the old-fashioned Coca-Colas in there. You know, they used to sweeten it with real sugar. They sell those in
the
there.
glass bottles.
Yeah, 3 cents a bottle. You get a gallon of gas and an ice cold Coca-Cola for $1.97. It's amazing. You know, people complain they don't have enough money to afford things. I say, why don't you go to Iowa, have yourself a nice soda and a tank of gas? Yeah, $1.90, $1.94. Yeah, I mean, where he's getting this. Okay, so you do 30 seconds worth of research. Here are the Iowa gas prices as of yesterday, as of May 27th. And just so people don't think I'm fudging the numbers, in case you thought maybe Trump was in O'Brien County, Iowa. Maybe O'Brien is where it's cheap. No, there's no data for O'Brien. Maybe that's where he was. Maybe that's where the closed gas station was.
Yeah,
maybe that's where the deserted gas
Maybe.
stations were that have not been opened in 30 years. And they were marked $1.90. But as you can see there, gas in Iowa between $3.50 and $4 a gallon throughout the entire state. So where he was, that he saw multiple gas stations with gas less than $2 a gallon. I have a feeling you could file that under things that did not happen. And the numbers here reflect this concern about gas and energy prices. Now 54% of Americans call themselves very concerned. The next highest cohort is somewhat concerned. So between those very concerned and somewhat concerned, you're at 74%. And then right down there at the bottom, you have the Ed Gulrine voters in northern Kentucky who are not concerned at all. MAGA, things are going great. Those are the plan trusters down there, marked in yellow and orange. Those are those who trust the plan.
Is that true? Are those
mean?
really Gulrine voters?
No, I'm just joking about that.
Okay.
One can
I thought
assume.
maybe it was. I thought it was a poll that.
Yeah.
They asked them.
No, this is a nationwide survey here by Civic Science. Not only are people concerned about this, they're concerned to the point where now it looks like 1 in 10 Americans are actually driving less than they normally would because of the price of gas. So people who've been said, I've been driving the same amount or more than usual. I've been driving less than usual. See, now people driving less than usual is up to 39% from 30%. So you have almost 10% of Americans deciding now they got to start driving less. This, of course, heading into the summertime where people are supposed to be going away, taking vacations, right? I mean, you could see the writing on the wall here that Trump wants to pretend is not there. Broadly speaking, economic confidence sinks further, worst since 2022. Worst since the post-pandemic sort of reopening of things. Look at that, -45. -45, worst point since coming out of the COVID lockdowns in 2022. That is quite dismal. Americans' recent ratings of current economic conditions. Only 16% say excellent or good. 49% say poor. You look at these numbers 5 months before midterm, and you think, how can you possibly come out of these midterms the majority party? But spoiler alert, Trump doesn't care. He says, I don't care about the midterms. Let's take a look.
Wait me, we'll outweight him. He's got the midterms. I don't care about the midterms. Look what happened last night. That was the prelude to the midterms.
Okay, so what he's saying there is you're not going to force me into a peace deal thinking that I need a peace deal to reverse these economic numbers before the midterms because I don't care about the midterms.
They thought they were going to outweight me. We'll outweight him. He's got the midterms. I don't care about the midterms. Look what happened last night. That was the prelude to the midterms. People understand it. They know that, very simple, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I'm doing that for the world. I'm not doing it just for us.
Yeah. So what happened last night, he was referring to the victory of Trump-endorsed Ken Paxton in the Texas governor's Republican primary. So you really can't, say that because my candidates are winning the primaries, that means we're in great shape for the midterms because, of course, primaries are Republican versus Republican. And so Ken Paxton wins the primary last night. But as you can see here, Donald Trump continues to notch up victories in the Republican primaries ahead of November's midterm elections. But our tracker shows that the president has never been more unpopular. So the Economist polling now has Trump at minus 24. And about this victory here that they had on Tuesday night in the Republican primary, Ken Paxton over John Cornyn, that was seen as good news, not for the Republicans, but for the Democrats who wanted to run against Paxton because he is seen as far more beatable than the incumbent John Cornyn. And the first poll out of Texas seems to bear that out with this little guy here, this kid here, James Tallarico, up by 7 points. And so Trump can say, well, I don't care about the midterms because look at what happened last night. Yeah, your lunatic candidate won a primary last night. That's what happened. That was actually seen as bad news by most people in the party and around the party who have the party's midterm fate top of mind. But then, of course, we have this. So Iran retaliates. They strike Kuwait. U.S. attacks as Israeli forces cross Lebanon's Litani River. The United States has carried out new defensive strikes on an Iranian military site, allegedly posing a threat to U.S. forces and maritime traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. In response, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says it launched an attack on an American airbase and warns of more decisive action should U.S. aggression continue. Now, we have up-to-the-minute news. This is why I said we have an up-to-the-minute news break, which could be obsolete right now, for all we know. Could be obsolete by the time this stream is over. You can only have your eyes in one place at one time. But this hot off the press at Axios right before we went live. Axios, by the way, is kind of like the H.A. Goodman of the Iran war.
Yeah.
They keep breaking the news that a deal is going to happen, and then it never happens. So we will see. We will see. But this is their latest scoop. U.S. and Iran reach deal, but need Trump's final approval. Officials say, well, when have we seen this before? They could just recycle these articles at this point.
Yeah.
U.S. and
just
Iranian,
have the AI write them.
Yeah, just
They
have the AI
do.
write them. Yeah, exactly. U.S. and Iranian negotiators have reached an agreement on a 60-day memorandum of understanding, noted as an MOU, to extend the ceasefire and launch negotiations on Iran's nuclear program. But President Trump has yet to give it his final approval, two U.S. officials tell Axios. And by President Trump, we mean President Netanyahu, just so you understand. That's called reading between the lines. Why it matters, the signing of the MOU would be the most significant diplomatic breakthrough since the war started. But a final agreement that tackles Trump's nuclear demands would still require further intensive negotiations. Zoom in. The U.S. official said the 60-day MOU will state that shipping through the Strait of Hormuz will be unrestricted. A U.S. official said this means no tolls and no harassment, and that Iran will have to remove all mines from the strait within 30 days. The U.S. naval blockade will also be lifted, but that will happen in proportion to the restoration of commercial shipping, a U.S. official said. The MOU will include an Iranian commitment not to pursue a nuclear weapon, the officials said. It will also state that the first issues to be negotiated during the 60-day window will be how to dispose of Iran's highly enriched uranium and how to address Iranian enrichment. The U.S. will commit, to discuss sanctions relief and the release of frozen Iranian funds as part of the negotiations. The MOU will also include a discussion of a mechanism to help Iran start receiving goods and humanitarian aid. Okay, so when you look at that reporting, what's missing from that list, and this is just a preliminary list from Axios reported an hour ago, so this does not necessarily mean it's not included, but it is striking that a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is not included in that list, because that, we know, is a major sticking point for the Israelis, who just have an insatiable bloodlust that apparently Gaza could not satisfy. They are determined now to make southern Lebanon the next Gaza Strip. So we will have to see if those terms are part of the deal, and we will have to see if this deal is agreed upon. But, fool me once, fool me twice, fool me three times. How many times have we seen this from the same outlet, oddly enough, report that we're this close to a deal? Now, you put all this together and you think, well, okay, well, something has to give. Something has to give. because the stalemate can't go on forever, because you can't have $5 gas going into a midterm. Trump's chest pounding notwithstanding, it's not politically a survivable thing to have that dynamic carry into the midterms. You also have the Israelis, who are clearly not willing to make any kind of deal that stops short of their permission to basically fulfill the Greater Israel Project in short order. And so when you put that all together, you think something has to give. It has to escalate in some direction. And so far, the signs are not great.
Yeah. Now that Trump is in this trap, he can't get out of it. There's no way out of it. We keep saying this. You know, people keep reporting, particularly Axios, as you point out, as if these signals from Marco Rubio are credible, as if that's meaningful. You got a situation. Okay, is Iran going to back down on Lebanon? No. Are they going to back down on the Strait of Hormuz? No. Are they going to back down on nuclear material? No. Will Trump accept a deal in which they don't back down on that? I think at this point he would, but the Israelis will not let him. The people who are actually running that White House will not allow anything short of the removal of the Iranian government. That they're not going to settle for anything less than that. So the only direction this is going to go in is escalation. It may take a month, it may take 2 months for it to break back into open war. It may take 2 hours, because it looks like we're getting there pretty quickly. But this nonsense that you're getting from this team of crackpots and incompetence. Oh yeah, no, we almost have an agreement. Really, like 2 days. This is the same shit they said 2 days ago, that they were going to agree to this, and the Israelis said, well, it's a good thing that the president is safe from the mysterious gunman.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
we haven't
that
heard
wasn't
shit about
a
since.
warning or anything to you,
Yeah.
Mr. President.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, they're not going to let him out of this, man. He's, Trump is fundamentally stupid. He's a one-trick pony. He's very good. He's very smart about tricking dumb people into thinking he cares about them. He's good at that. But fundamentally, he's an incurious, stupid guy. And they probably have all kinds of shit on him from the Epstein days. So you put that together, that's why they were able to get him into this. Say what you want about Obama. He wasn't on that island, man. They didn't have that on him, but they did on Trump.
Squeaky clean over here. Nothing to see
Squeaky
here.
clean. Been
I ain't
fucking the
going nowhere
same
wrong.
woman 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, Megyn Kelly even says that now. Megyn Kelly just said, she even said pretty much the same thing, referencing Obama, that Obama wasn't baited into this. Trump was baited into this. He's been ready to pull out since he went in. He didn't want to go in. I'm convinced he never really wanted to go in. You could maybe he was, massaged a little bit about the ease of the Venezuela operation, but I'm sorry, man. Trump, I think you're right. I think he is a dumb guy, and I think he kind of knows that he's in over his head here. And I'm sorry, it's impossible for me to believe that when Netanyahu came into the Situation Room and made this pitch, and Trump's entire inner circle, from his Secretary of State to his Vice President to his CIA guy, said, this is bullshit. This is not as advertised. Do I really believe Trump didn't know somewhere in his heart of hearts that they were right and that Bibi was fucking him? I mean, Trump's dealt with Israelis in New York,
Right.
He's a buildings guy. You tell me he doesn't know these people are full of shit. I think he had no choice. I think he was led into it because of some compromising material that they have on him. That is what this looks like. And I think every gesture towards a possible end to the war is his way of begging the Israelis through an intermediary, i.e. the world media, let me out. I went farther than any other president could, but we can't go all the way here. You got to let me out. And they're like, fuck no, this is our chance.
Nope.
This is our chance. I mean, this is their big chance because their state is in crisis, right? I mean, their state is a pariah on the world stage. People are leaving. The economy is shrinking. So if not now, when? That's what they figure. And, you know, at a certain level, man, you know, loyalty goes out the window. The Israelis are not loyal to anybody. They're grateful that they can control Donald Trump, but they have no loyalty to Donald Trump. They don't feel like, hey, you know what, Donald, you're the best friend Israel ever had. Thanks for coming this far. Let's shake hands. No, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. They're insane. They're insane. And they know this is their last chance to achieve what Netanyahu has wanted to achieve for more than half of his life. About 3/4 of his adult life. And so it is tough to see how any of these deals take shape without the obvious off-ramp, which is the United States just tells Israel, no. It's as simple as that, and the war ends. But that can't happen. And that can't happen because it seems like we elected the one guy who was compromised enough to be dragged into this.
Well, Tucker said, he told him, you know, these guys all hate you, right? Mark Levin,
That's
Ben
right.
Shapiro,
That's
you know,
right.
they all
Yep.
hate you.
Yep.
And he
Good
says,
call.
Trump say, yeah, I know. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
does
know.
Trump seem like the kind of guy who likes to indulge people he
Yeah.
knows hate him?
Yeah, I
So
know.
why is he doing it? They got it. They got him by the short and curlies, man. I mean, it's obvious. There's no way. This guy, Trump's not into war like that. He's not one of those. They left him with no choice. And I think part of the way he talked himself into it was, yeah, it's going to be like Maduro. Yeah, we're just going to go in there. I'll be a big hero. And then I don't have to take Miriam's 12-incher again.
Yep. Exactly. I mean, you know, one thing to contemplate is if the Democrats hadn't gone so hard at him and tried to put him in jail, maybe he wouldn't have run again. You know, maybe he would have been like, whoa, dodged a bullet there. All right, I'm out.
Maybe.
Let's go build some buildings. But he had to run again because they were going to throw him in prison if he didn't win.
Right.
You know, so,
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny to contemplate what the alternate history could have been. Had they just left the Stormy Daniels money alone. You know, that could end up being a very, very costly mistake, was trying to lock Donald Trump up over $100,000 to Stormy Daniels. That could be the thing that starts the end of the world. Funny how little things become big things in hindsight, right? All right. Let's move right on along here. What do we got? We got some Rumble rants and super chats over here. I forgot to copy these over here. I will populate the feed, and Russ, you want to read these? And I'll copy and paste. Yeah, we got quite a few.
Okay. I will start. Yep. Vianticus Prime. We also have something no one else has. Pork roll. Just to rub it in. Pork roll.
Who's got pork roll?
What is that? What's pork roll?
I don't know.
They have a lot of pork buns over there. Got a lot of pork buns
in
China. Oh, George. Oh, we've got non-kosher Asian, thankfully. Oh, you do? There's a kosher Chinese restaurant in Chinatown. You know, it's kind of popular because it's also like vegetarian. Yeah, it's like vegetarian kosher.
Oh,
so you got the non-Jewish vegetarians go there too.
Right.
Me shoot skeet super sticker. Thank you. Yeah, you never saw that place? It's on Mulberry. It's on Mulberry, the first block south of Canal.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I've passed that a million times. I used to give walking tours right past there, but I never noticed it. Yeah, that's called diversification right there.
Well, you see, it's been there for a while. You see a lot of Orthodox seating in there. Vianticus Prime. Perhaps we should just start calling it the Isn't Real East. We really should, man, especially where I live. You know, I mean, I've been recovering from the trip, like physically, really. It took a lot out of me. But wow, is this like a golden age for a guy with a press pass in New York City?
Yeah.
Like there's a Lizzie Savetsky-led freak show pretty much every week. And I will start to go out and cover those now that I'm feeling a little better. Dendrobates. After you guys told Tucker to learn the definition of genocide, he recites it in his next vid. Didn't realize you wielded so much power and influence. Well, no, no. A friend of ours told us, Tucker said, I don't want to get the Rogan treatment from those guys. You know, everybody thinks that Rogan sucks dick now because of that. Everybody thinks when Mark Andreessen goes there, he has to blow him.
And those guys are destroyers.
I don't want that to be me.
No, it's funny. I thought the exact same thing because we're covering that later, and I do have a little bit of that video in there. And yeah, it is kind of crazy how the next video out, he seems to recommit to the genocide label. Yeah, that is kind of crazy.
Yep. Nocturnal Human. That's a fucking lie about
Yeah.
Iowa gas. It's $4 here.
Yeah, as we said, obviously,
Of
we
course
we
it's
passed
lie.
3
I
gas
mean,
stations. It was $1.90.
just make shit up.
Yeah.
Irony. I mean, just briefly. I've told this story a few times when I went to the Braga rally, the Bronx MAGA rally. And a woman passed out in the crowd, and when that happens, they stop and wait for, and he just offhandedly goes, "Yeah, it's terrible. People were waiting 2 days to get in." Dude, I fucking showed up at 1 o'clock. There was
Yeah.
hardly anybody there.
Yeah.
Like you could just walk right in. But that actually gave me more insight into Trump's character than anything else I heard that day.
Right.
The fact it showed me how offhandedly this guy lies.
Right.
It really is like Cartman. Like,
Right. Oh yeah.
yeah, it's terrible. People were waiting for 2 days. Yeah,
You're waiting for 2 days out there.
it's awful. Nina Can. Irony that we scream about a toll on the straits when USA, land of the fees, makes its citizens pay the most junk fees in the world. Oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This place is the worst. To the point that when you go to fucking civilized countries and they don't nickel and dime you, you're kind of shocked.
Right.
Like, oh, wow. Hang on. Really? You're
Right.
not going to try to rape me?
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
I can just change my train ticket. You're not going to make me pay 25% of the cost? No.
Yeah. Or tell me I
$1
should have done it 20 minutes ago, and then you could have refunded me, but now you
And then you
can't.
could, but now
And
you
there's
can't.
nothing I can
Right.
do.
Yeah. $1 Million Trooper. Fitting Trump should bring up the Long Island Expressway because lie is all he does.
The LIE, that's what they call it.
Yeah, the LIE. EO Shush, why don't we cut out the orange middleman in these negotiations with Iran and have the president of the United States, Benjamin Netanyahu, directly deal with Iran? Well, this is the problem we're having. Our real president doesn't want to make a deal.
Right.
Nina Camp, maybe Trump really did see 190 a gallon signs. Anorexia Jared Kushner is charging gas signs
Changing
for
gas signs for
changing gas signs.
It's like the
for Trump.
Truman Show. Quick, put up $1.90 cents. The president's coming by. Yeah.
Dean W. On Iran, Trump thought he was going to be like the Mormons that soak. Just going to stick it in, and any movement that happens isn't my fault. Is that what they do? I thought they do ass sex. I thought that's what they do to preserve the chastity.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know if the Mormons do that. I know some of like the real born again Christians do that.
Yeah, that way technically they're still virgins.
They're still virgins. They're still pure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The Romans used to do that. Not for the chastity reason. It was considered like rude to have real sex with your wife on the wedding night. So you did that first on the first night.
So you do sodomy on the wedding night. Interesting.
Yes, that was more considerate.
Interesting.
I have a 4-volume series, A History of Private Life. That was one of the little nuggets in it about Rome.
Oh, nice. All right. Very good. All right. Want to move on?
Sure. See the things you learn on this show.
The things you learn on this show. Hey,
very educational.
Why don't you guys learn how to smash the like button over there? We got 1823 in here. We got 465 likes. Let's get that like count up here for the early show. That's right.
Slackers. Okay, so don't mess with the Zoran. Zoran is making a lot of heads explode this week. Every week, really, but particularly this week, because he announced his long-awaited housing plan, which they're calling Block by Block. This he tweeted this out. We're building 200,000 new affordable homes. We're overhauling code enforcement. We're cracking down on bad landlords. We're creating tens of thousands of good-paying jobs. We're building new paths to homeownership. We're investing $5.6 billion in NYCHA. That's the public housing in New York, the largest city capital investment in recent history. New York is facing a historic housing crisis. We're pushing a historic solution. All hands on deck, all of the above, all for New York City. All right. Here he is talking a little bit about his plan on New York One. That's kind of like a local, hyper local station that's only on cable.
The city is putting forward the most ambitious plan for affordable housing the city has ever seen. We're talking about 200,000 new, truly affordable homes being built over the next 10 years, 200,000 affordable homes being preserved over that same period of time, an investment of $5.6 billion into NYCHA, the largest city investment in NYCHA in decades, and all of this while investing in tenants across the city, ensuring that code enforcement is not seen as a suggestion, but rather a requirement.
All right. Now, normally we do not mess with CBS News post Ellison, but that's the link that he shared. Now, Mamdani is pretty politically savvy. I'm betting that's quite intentional. But I mean, the article is surprisingly straightforward and not hyperventilating about this plan. So I can see why he might have shared it out. Mamdani pledged New York City will build 200,000 new affordable rent stabilized homes over the next decade. Quote, this historic production push will increase the number of homes for homeless New Yorkers by nearly 45%, Mamdani said. He said an additional 200,000 homes will also be preserved and stabilized. Together, these 400,000 homes will be affordable for working people, and they will be made possible by historic $22 billion capital investment over 5 years. When it comes to affordable housing, no plan of this scale has ever been imagined by a past mayor, let alone proposed, Mamdani said. The mayor said the plan will also mean plenty of new jobs to help with the construction. Mamdani unveiled extensive tenant protections as part of his affordable housing plans. Nearly 70% of New Yorkers do not own their homes, Mamdani said. Mamdani said his plan takes into account feedback his administration heard during its recent rental ripoff hearings. The third part of Mamdani's plan is investing in NYCHA. Quote, City Hall will rewrite a legacy of neglect with the largest capital commitment to NYCHA in decades. $5.6 billion over 5 years, Mamdani said. And we will do all this while ensuring NYCHA remains publicly owned and publicly operated. The funds will go to comprehensive renovations guided by residents' input, the mayor said. Quote, that's big ticket items in buildings, such as the roof, boiler, and elevator, real estate attorney Adam Lightman Bailey said. That will make a dent. Mamdani also said he wants to overhaul the 311 system and said, that's the government hotline, and said starting October 1st, inspectors will investigate every single heat complaint. Quote, for buildings that have suffered chronic neglect, we will work to transfer ownership to responsible stewards, he said. More on that, because that precipitated quite a chud meltdown. So this is one of many accounts that shared this particular clip from his speech announcing this plan. Now, Mamdani says his administration will transfer ownership from bad landlords to nonprofits. God, that sounds horrible. So here he is.
Citywide campaign, Fix the City, we will focus on the worst landlords in New York City. When necessary, we will take aggressive legal action to remove negligent owners and property managers. And for buildings that have suffered chronic neglect, we will work to transfer ownership to responsible stewards. Stewards that include community land trusts, nonprofits, or even the tenants themselves.
That sounds horrible. That sounds terrible that criminally negligent landlords would have their buildings taken away and given to the people they victimized or organizations tasked with running the building in good order for the people they victimized. That's awful. That's
Yeah, I
all.
bet you never imagined that in your worst nightmare that you would eventually own part of your building because there was a negligent landlord. I mean,
That's
you
terrible.
can't prepare for these things. I mean, things get really bad really fast in ways you don't expect.
He's destroying the city.
Yeah, he's destroying the city.
I went out earlier. I saw a guy smacking himself in the head, taking away buildings, taking away buildings. Like people are just going crazy over here. They're going crazy. They can't believe it. They can't. In a city of 70% renters, people really sympathize with the landlord class here.
Yeah, yeah.
That's who they sympathize with. So Nathan J. Robinson, a lot of angry landlords in the replies. Yeah, not just landlords, peasants.
Peasants.
A lot of broken brain, peasant-minded people.
And robots.
99 and bots, and 99% of which do not live in New York and have never been to New York. Don't know a damn thing about New York that they didn't hear from grifting scumbag Cash Jordan. So, hey, let's look at some of these comments. Now we covered this a little bit in the Ashley Sinclair, and we've covered this a lot. How like the whole X ecosystem is bots and paid guns for hire. And that's how you can really see that when you see how quickly they coordinated the same exact talking points, that this is all a scheme to transfer housing ownership to the city. It's all a scheme to force landlords to give up their buildings. That talking point again and again and again. La Pulu. 1, private entity buys building. 2, government restricts the amount you can increase rent, making upgrades and maintenance unaffordable. 3, government calls you a deadbeat and takes your building. 4, profit. Okay, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Interesting times. Bad landlords will include anyone whose property the communists wish to confiscate. Yeah, and this is for anyone who doesn't know, this is from Dr. Zhivago. This was living space for 13 families in this one house. Sabrina Lionheart, this is a pretty good summation of what they're running with here, the conspiracy theory they're running with. Mamdani wants to confiscate private property from bad landlords and hand it to nonprofits or tenants. That's not reform. That's communism. This is the face of evil. This is the face of evil. Not like a family of 5 with black mold on the walls who have no water coming out of their sink. That's not the face of evil. The idea of telling someone like that, you know what, if you're going to run your building this way, you can't own a building. That's evil.
Right.
That's evil. He has no right to take what isn't his. Government and nonprofits scam, commit fraud, and destroy value. They've never made housing or anything else better. As Friedman warned, force used for equality of outcome ends up in the hands of people who use it for themselves. Ignorant voters got played. That ignorance will be the downfall of America. This is one city. This is one city. I mean, I'll grant you it's a particularly visible city, but it's one city in the country. I thought you people believe in local rights. I thought you believe in localism, in a small federal government and local people being able to run their own affairs. The hell do you care what people in New York vote for? You live here? She doesn't live here. I promise you she doesn't live here.
Well, it says, I mean, these people ran against the World Economic Forum, techno surveillance, AI dystopia, and that's exactly what they're getting. So where are these ignorant voters? They seem to be everywhere but New York City. Seems like you could say that for every place but New York.
Exactly. New York is actually getting what it voted for.
Yeah, they're getting what they voted for. You got fucking data centers, pedophiles, and World War III.
Exactly. It turned out the calls from Epstein Island were coming from inside the house. Yeah. Z Van Fleet, here's some of the peasants here to jump in. Wow, the commies are ready to confiscate private property. Jafer, socialist piece of shit, and those buildings will be full of Muslims. They're 5 wives and 20 kids. I mean, you want to see somebody with 20 kids? I mean, why don't you stop sucking Elon's dick? Right? Doesn't he have like 14 kids or something?
He should have just named them as people, part of the list of like, we're going to hand it over to nonprofits, the tenants themselves, and most of all, Muslims.
No regret vet. How?
Who's keeping whose security deposit now, bitch?
How? Through eminent domain? This is actual fascism. Oh, this is actual fascism. These people have totally lost their minds. Now, you notice how you don't see a coordinated campaign. This guy's talking about eminent domain. About this. You notice how you don't see this kind of coordinated talking points on X about this? A 600-acre AI data center could cost some Wisconsin residents their land. That's actually using eminent domain. Nobody's talking about eminent domain in this case. We'll get into what mechanism they're talking about using. But yeah, no. Woman fighting to save mother's home from data center developers. You notice how nobody pushes the button to get all of these grifters on X on the same page about shutting down the use of eminent domain on data centers where they actually are using eminent domain? You notice that?
You have a nationwide expansion of these data centers that almost nobody wants, that are swallowing people's homes, people's water, people's electricity, and yet he's the Nazi for wanting to confiscate the buildings from slumlords.
Right. Those are not the people you should be angry at.
Right.
Kevin O'Leary. Those are not the people you should be angry at. These scum of the earth people who are actually using eminent domain to actually take houses from people who did nothing wrong, right? No, you should be angry on behalf of slumlords. And then here's the real hired guns, Daily Wire. Mamdani wants to decide who deserves to keep their property. And I'm just going to make another point here, and you'll see it more in the protest. A lot of these culture war arguments at this point are basically being driven by Zionists who are trying in a roundabout way to get you to support Israel.
Exactly.
And they jump into these issues in order to get you to support Israel. End wokeness. It begins. New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani unveils plan to transfer ownership from landlords to the community. What did Ashley Sinclair call her? Cognitive speed bump or something? Tim Pool, who secretly met with Netanyahu, and then when he got busted for it, tried to make the issue that it was supposed to be off the record, and it was very bad form to reveal that he hadn't confessed to his audience the fact that he's being manipulated and paid by Israel.
No one respects Chatham House rules anymore.
Nobody respects Chatham House rules. That's right. Use rent control to inhibit economic activity and the ability of owners to fix problems. We've had rent control since the 30s, too. And this is one of the hottest real estate markets on earth. So how do you square that circle, Beanie Boy? Attack owners for not fixing problems. Seize property. Communism. See, they're all on the same talking point. Just like Ashley Sinclair said, there's mathematically no way that would happen, that everybody has the exact same talking point. That's you get marching orders. You have certain organizations that pay these influencers that send out their marching orders every day. This is what the message is for today. So here is Varney here over on Fox, explaining to the peasants how bad cracking down on landlords who leave elderly people in freezing cold apartments all winter, how bad that's going to be for you. It's going to be very bad for you.
In the world of New York Mayor Zoran Mamdani, there seems to be no such thing as a bad tenant. Or you can be late with the rent or just not pay for months on end. You can be dangerous, destructive, noisy. But the mayor is on your side. He has a new housing plan. It is pro-tenant. It is vigorously anti-landlord. It is all socialist politics. With his characteristic smile, he delivered another landlord-bashing program. Boil it down, and it amounts to a plan that would seize properties from private landlords and transfer that property to renter-controlled cooperatives. In other words, the renters get the property when the landlord is deemed to be a deadbeat. Mamdani encourages the formation of tenant unions to snitch on property owners. They expect 300 of these building takeovers in the next 2 years. Do you think repairs will be done on time when the tenants run the joint? Where does the money come from?
Yes.
Perhaps the mayor will be handing out never to be repaid improvement loans. No surprise, this plan was hatched with the help of...
I think, sorry to pause it, I think the repairs are more likely to be done on time now that the landlord runs the joint when he is threatened with possible confiscation of his building. Like, this is going to whip some of the slumlords into shape. You know,
Right.
This is going to be a deterrence.
Well, and beyond that, if the people own the building, they have the most incentive to maintain the building. Not only is that for their living conditions, it's also for their equity and their investment.
That's right. That's right.
I thought you guys believe in those profit incentives.
That's right. No more pouring vegetable oil down the sink.
No more of that.
The mayor's tenant advocate. She has previously called for the abolition of private property. Now, this is a backdoor approach. Get the private landlord officially labeled a deadbeat, and that private property becomes public property. That's socialism. They'll never learn how important capital is. Without the capital and discipline that private individuals bring to the table, housing languishes. Standards go down. And when failure sets in, who do you think the socialists will blame? The rich, of course, for not paying their fair share.
These are the same idiots who said New York was going to be half empty by now.
Oh, yeah. And actually,
here they are painting some
in
doom and gloom picture.
Yeah, in the first quarter, we just hit historic office demand in the first quarter. And I got to say, man, you want to talk about a macro thing that I was personally wrong about? I never thought office space was going to come back with remote work. I never thought that was going to happen, but it did. It did.
Spreading the news.
Yep. So what's Stuart Varney worth? See, this is why I get frustrated, man, because it can be really hard on working people with their broken peasant brain. It's because I grew up with working people, man, back when they were fucking surly, and a guy like this, they would have kicked the shit out of this guy if he tried to tell them that they got to back landlords over housing reform. That is the working class I grew up with. To see how broken they are mentally, it hurts me, man. It hurts me. Why would you listen to this guy? This guy's got $14 million. He doesn't give a shit about you. Doesn't give a shit about people living in horrible conditions with unhealthy plaster falling off the ceiling onto their babies. He doesn't get. This guy's got $14 million. Doesn't give a shit about you. People like this are the scum of the earth, man. They have no ethics. They will say whatever they're being paid to say.
Apparently pretty bad with money too. I mean, if he makes $4 million a year, he's been on TV for what, 70 years?
Yeah. What is he blowing it on? OnlyFans?
Yeah, bad investments there, my friend.
Steve Forbes.
Too many $28 lunches for Stuart Varney.
That's right. He needs to rein in his lunch budget. Steve Forbes, the government cannot build, manage, or maintain housing better than the private sector. Crushing landlords with freezes, mandates, and takeovers will not solve New York's housing crisis. It will make it worse for the very tenants politicians claim to protect. Now, he wrote a whole op-ed in the Post. I'm not going to get into it, but basically refutes Mamdani at one point, pointed out rightly that public housing began to be defunded under Reagan. And he's saying, no, that has nothing to do with it. Doesn't explain why that has nothing to do with it. What's he worth? He's what do our Chinese friends call people like Steve Forbes? What do they call him?
Lucky boys.
He's a lucky boy. He's a lucky boy. He's worth $200 million. Well, he earned that money. Were you jealous? No, you fucking didn't. He's an American publisher, chairman of Forbes, son of longtime Forbes publisher Malcolm Forbes, and the grandson of the publication's founder. This guy never had to skip a meal in his life. This guy was born on home plate. Forget about third base. This guy's born on home plate. He's going to tell the peasants about housing policy. He's going to tell the peasants about how things work. Oh, I wonder why this guy who was born into the capital class, born into money, is telling you that only people like him should run the economy. I wonder why he's telling you that. So let's just a little summary of the history here. So New York at one time New York's public housing was the envy of the nation. It was the best public housing in the country for a long time. For a long time, it was considered very decent housing for working people. It was built out from the 30s into the 60s, thousands of units, much bigger than anybody else's system, and much better run and maintained. But starting in the 1980s, and this is why Mamdani is talking about Reagan, the federal government started to pull out of financing it. Following the Nixon era moratorium on new public housing construction, the 1980s solidified a fundamental shift in national housing policy. The federal government began quietly withdrawing from Section 9 operational support, steadily shifting its limited funds toward voucher programs. 90s into the 2000s, stripped of federal capital funds, NYCHA's maintenance budgets were slashed. Buildings deteriorated as authorities struggled with mounting operating deficits and aging infrastructure. And then, the housing stock just declined from there. This is very typical of the people who want to make this argument. They defund programs that improve people's lives. And then when they go to shit, say, see, those programs don't work. This is what's happening with universal health care in a lot of the countries that have it. In England, in Australia, the national health, you talk to people there, they say, oh, it's not what it was because they're defunding it. That's why it's not what it was. So yeah, the public housing is a nightmare because they've been defunding it for 50 years. It's not what it was. Now, one time, we're so far removed from this, and this is by design, that people have forgotten this. Housing policy was not always focused on giving tax breaks for mortgages. This is why you had nationwide public housing built, because as part of kind of the New Deal mindset, it was seen as a federal government responsibility to provide affordable housing to some extent for working people throughout the population. And at the time that they built it originally in New York, they actually didn't take people who were on welfare. It was specifically for working families. So, okay, you're against public programs like that. Although when AI comes for your job, you probably won't be anymore. But okay, you're against people on welfare getting better housing than you live in. Okay, so you're against working families getting that housing because that's what it originally was. That's what it originally was, and then they started to defund it and favor the homeowner class rather than the working class. And as a result of that defunding, that's why it's gone to shit. It's not, and the world that they've created since it went to privatization doesn't really back up the argument that they do it better, or certainly in a way that benefits people. This is a question you're not supposed to ask. We're so far from asking this question that people forgot to ask it. They forgot it's even possible to ask this question. Who's an economy for? Who is it for? Who's the economy for? If it doesn't benefit most people, who's it for? They want you to think that the economy is for them. And one day you'll be one of them, but you won't. You won't. So you're just going to keep carrying lucky boys like Forbes around on your shoulder for the rest of your life. And here's some of the peasants. Here's some of the peasants responding to Steve Forbes. And then he'll expect a federal bailout. Communism never works. Yeah, well, if the federal government hadn't defunded public housing, you wouldn't need a bailout. Yeah, the federal government should pay for it. You know how they could pay for it very easily? Stop bombing fucking Iran. There's an idea.
Yeah, that's $1 billion a day.
That's $1 billion a day. There's the money. Cha-ching. When are the NYCHA hearings? Everyone should see how he plans to handle the 177,000 apartments for which he's already responsible. $5.6 billion. That's part of his plan. He's putting money into NYCHA. Just what New York needs, more city-owned tenement slums. Yeah, well, not if you fund it. Not if you fund it. Just what the city needs, more slumlords. More shitty buildings owned by slumlords. How about that? James Kaplan, why won't the Democrats oppose Marxism? It's become suspicious. Well, I refer you to Miss Pelosi there. We're capitalists. That's just the way it is. How about that? Yeah, I'd say they pretty strongly oppose it. Suzanne Least, another failure by socialism, but combined with Islam, the failure will be much deeper and deadlier.
Hasn't done anything yet. Another failure by so it hasn't done anything yet. What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, he's filled 100,000 potholes, if that's what you mean. That's
Yeah, but not this
failure.
housing takeover here.
Okay, so this is what gets me when they make these arguments, and this is part of why Mamdani's popularity is only going up, and it's not working on anyone who actually lives in New York. It's working on some broken-brained peasants who've never set foot in New York. It's not working on New Yorkers. Manhattan and Brooklyn rents soared to new records. This from March, I think. Manhattan, the average rent in Manhattan, where I live, and I've explained this before for anyone who doesn't know, I moved into this building in January, it'll be 20 years ago. Because we have rent stabilization, once you move into an apartment, they can only raise it a certain percentage per year. So if you stay put in a housing market like Manhattan, it doesn't take long before your rent is way under market rent. If I had to pay this, I'd leave. There is no fucking way in hell I would pay the rents you would pay if you moved into New York right now. That's how I afford to stay here. And that's part of why I don't move. Like if I moved, I'd be paying this.
You're starting over, yeah.
Exactly. Manhattan 5,000, Brooklyn 4,296. So this is what gets me with these people, man. They talk like what they're doing has been great for people. What they've been doing has been working. Oh, you don't want to change anything. You might not be able to afford to live in New York anymore. If you make some changes, nobody can afford it. And what really gets me with the people outside of New York who jump on these narratives, you fucking hate the kind of people who can pay that rent. You hate these people, and they hate you right back. Really? You like the people who line up for the latest boba tea confection in Nolita? You like those fucking people? You want to keep the city for them? Come on. And like, who are you defending? You're defending them and their landlords? Unreal, man. So this is actually, and this is the craziest part, what Mamdani is doing in a lot of areas is building on policies that Eric Adams had. This is one of Eric Adams' staffers, mad at the New York Times for not giving them credit for the fact that Mamdani is building on their policies. Since the New York Times is incapable of properly providing citation and is acting as if this is new, and he gave a bunch of citations, at least the Mamdani administration is considering continuing programs that work. And there's the critique he'll get from a lot of people on the left. They'll feel that he's not radical enough. Some of his plan involves tax breaks for developers to get them to build more affordable housing. He didn't, just shut them out the way some people would want to make it completely a government project. In reality, that is just simply not realistic. It's not realistic, not with the goals that he has. So in terms of the mechanisms of what the takeover would be, given that, this is what the chuds are running with. All right, so this is the closest thing you have to this in law now. A 7A administrator is allowed to come in and take over a building from a landlord that has been grossly negligent and has repeatedly not resolved fines and citations. The city can appoint an administrator to take over the building and use the rent to pay for the repairs. It's part of what we were pushing for in my building at one point, but we'll get into that. So, okay, that's the closest you have other than like a tax lien, which that's anywhere that a tax lien, the jurisdiction can take your building potentially if it gets bad enough. But there is no mechanism per se right now for literally taking the building ownership away from the landlord based on negligence. I think that's wrong. Most New Yorkers would think that's wrong. I was surprised when I researched this piece. I thought that when they appoint an administrator, that's a step towards taking the building, but apparently they don't. So yes, this is an article from March. Mamdani wants to take buildings from bad New York City landlords. This bill could make it happen. So this is a little bit about how they would do that. Quote, if you are a chronically negligent actor who has your tenants living in dangerous conditions, you do not deserve to be in ownership, and you, after a fair process, will have your property taken from you, council member Perina Sanchez told Gothamist ahead of a council hearing Monday. Her legislation would specifically apply to buildings with unpaid taxes equal to a quarter of the property's value, or 15% if the property also has an average of 5 or more housing code violations per unit. Okay, do you know how fucked up your building has to be to have 5 violations, but not per building, per unit? Like, you are talking about a rat-infested, dangerous, moldy shithole if you've got 5 violations per unit. That is a very high bar to set for that. Or at least 1,000 in emergency repairs paid by the city. The cities, okay, that's in very extreme cases that are a threat to life and limb, like a broken boiler that's not getting fixed. The city will eventually send their own people in to fix it and bill you for it. The city's housing agent would then create a ranking of the most distressed properties. Sanchez cited the owner of 2 decrepit Washington Heights apartment buildings, who was arrested twice in 2024 for failing to complete court-ordered repairs. The owner, Daniel Obshalom, wonder what tribe he's from, faces criminal charges for harassing tenants and endangering the welfare of a child after Manhattan prosecutors say a ceiling collapsed on a young child. Oheb Shalom has pleaded not guilty and maintains ownership of the building. I want you to explain to me why this guy shouldn't have his building taken away if indeed you have that position. I want some of these people screaming about communism to explain why this guy shouldn't have his building taken away.
I think they'll be screaming about anti-Semitism before communism, but communism would be a close second.
That would be a close second. Well, they want to tie all that together.
Yeah.
During the hearing, Rosa Kelly, chief of staff to the housing commissioner, narrated a slideshow presentation showing that about 3,000 apartment buildings could be eligible for foreclosure and transfer under the new legislation due to housing code violations and unpaid taxes and fines. She specifically focused on a subset of 200 buildings that have amassed more than $250 million in cumulatively unpaid debts and around 14,000 severe housing code violations. All right, so this is something I know a thing or two about. My former landlord moved his severely mentally ill son into the first floor of my building. And if you see these boxes, guess what's in these boxes? These boxes are full of shit and piss. He would mix it into a bag and put it out in the hallway to basically to torture the tenants. Like, his whole reason for getting up in the morning was to torture the tenants. He would run his water full blast 24 hours a day so that you couldn't get any water in the upper stories. Now, keep in mind, this is all during COVID. So you're locked in with a guy who's rubbing shit on the walls of the building and depriving you of water in the middle of COVID. You're telling me this guy should keep his building? This guy should keep his... Why? Why? And when we all went to the city housing authority, he retaliated against everyone who filed by launching a frivolous lawsuit. He actually said to me, yeah, it doesn't matter if it's true. You'll be in court for 10 years with me. Okay. So somebody like that should not have their building taken away. The idea of these scumbags like Forbes, like Varney, trying to get working people riled up on behalf of landlords who subject their tenants to things like this, it's just as disgusting as this, actually. That was pretty disgusting. And here's another point, just strategically. Aaron Rugenberg, he wrote an article. This kind of sums up the thesis of it. He wrote an article for the New Republic. To understand the stakes of the progressive versus centrist fight to control the Democratic Party, just compare Zoran's terms so far with Abigail Spanberger's. Zoran, free childcare for 2-year-olds, banned junk fees, filled 100,000 potholes, new bike and bus lanes across the city, wealth tax on luxury second homes. Yeah, that just passed the legislature, by the way. Millions of dollars won for tenants and thousands of apartments repaired. Spanberger vetoed bill to let public workers unionize, vetoed bill allowing class action lawsuits, vetoed bill to stop warrantless arrests by ICE, vetoed bill legalizing cannabis sales, vetoed bill to lower prescription drug prices. Trump was defeated in 2020 only to return in an even more dangerous form 4 years later. So we already know that it is not enough to beat MAGA once at the ballot box. If Dems don't pair their next electoral victory with Mamdani's commitment to positively improving people's lives rather than Spanberger's model of selling out to corporations, we're going to be right back in the maws of fascism one election later. And this time we might not be facing an authoritarian as incompetent and self-defeating as Trump has been. So, that kind of comes to the heart of, I think, a conundrum for a lot of people who watch our show. And this has come up really since Mamdani first would not acknowledge the right of Israel to exist as an apartheid state. What do you do? What do you do if you've walked away from the entire political system, the entire two-party system? If you've got a guy like this who clearly is pushing the conversation towards where you've been screaming since the Bernie days, the conversation needs to go. I mean, for me, it's pretty simple. It's the Frederick Douglass thing, join with anyone to do good. I've said it before. I think for people on the left who keep tearing this guy down, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot. Whether you like it or not, he's an avatar for the left and its ability to govern. He is. And you know what? You could do worse because it's very rare that you have people with these politics who fill the potholes. He's a very skillful politician. He understands that New York is a place where you're probably going to be evaluated on whether you fill the potholes and clear the snow more than a lot of the policies that he's committing to. But yeah, I mean, so far, he's, I would say, exceeding my expectations. Like, I think a lot of us thought he was just going to go in and everything that he said he was going to do was going to go out the window, like it does so often. I think for people who are veterans of the Bernie campaign, it's very hard to support anybody, except Republicans, strangely enough, like Thomas Massey. They don't seem to have a problem with that. But man, it's the lover that jilted you that hurt you the most, right? So if the person's got a D next to their name, you just got to attack them, even when they're moving in your direction, and even when they've got all the right enemies, as we'll see next. Like they did a protest against him. What was that, last night, 2 nights ago? And a more repulsive collection of Zionists, freaks, and morons you will never see. So, all the right people are coming after him. Is he perfect? No. The fact that I have a mayor who is not going to attend the Israel Day parade in freaking New York City, yeah, it's a win. I'm going to take it. I'm going to claim it as an example of, hey, what's going on over there? Gallrein, right? What'd you guys just do? Elect Gallrein. All right, so what's our avatar doing? He's not going to the Israel Day parade. Insofar as there are elected officials actually in office who are rejecting Zionism, it's all on the left side. Yeah, you got people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey. Look what happened to them, right? They're out of office now.
Yeah, that guy who I used to like a lot, now he writes for the Free Press. This guy, River Page, wrote this great article about living in New York, about how, the stars in the mural atop Grand Central Station are the only stars you'll see in New York City, which is kind of a metaphor for the sort of illusion of life in New York City for so many people. And that was the ethos of the city when I lived there. And, going as far back as almost any living person can remember. I used to work at Radio City Music Hall as a tour guide. We made $13 an hour. We were not allowed to accept tips. Not only were we not allowed to solicit tips, we were not allowed to accept them if we were given them. Of course, everybody
wow.
followed that rule very closely.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, everybody followed that rule very closely. Working there, you're working for a pittance. I mean, and you're not working 40 hours a week there because they don't run that many tours there. So, you're working for a few $100s a fucking week. Going on the same elevators, mingling with the same people who are either the talent or the higher ups there. Everybody uses the same locker rooms at Radio City Music Hall. When you report to work, you're going under the stage. You're walking right past the Rockettes and all the directors and everybody who's like made it. And that is a perfect metaphor for the ethos of New York City, that, living in New York City is like buying a lottery ticket. You dream of one day being those people who you kind of share a very crowded city with, but the odds of ever being one of them is very, very slim. And for the most part, you're just gonna grind out a meager existence and end up very unfulfilled and regretful for everything that didn't work out. And that's because the city really keeps its boot on the neck of working people. And the message from the political class in New York is the same from the Wall Street class, which is, hey, you're here to dream, and 99 dreamers out of 100 fail, but maybe you'll be that one who doesn't. That's the Frank Sinatra song. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere, right? Meaning this is the hardest place to live, but there's a romanticism about it. So anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying that to have a city government that is finally actually making it their priority to increase the standard of living of the swaths of working class people who live in New York City is kind of a miracle, as someone who's lived there. And I didn't live there nearly as long as you have. You lived there pretty much your whole life. But just in the 7 years that I spent there, this seems kind of impossible. It seems kind of impossible. And it's kind of surreal that it's finally here. And it is here. I mean, this housing thing is huge. This is a huge, huge play. We'll see if it works out. We'll see how it works out. But this looks like exactly what the doctor ordered. Jose Vega, in our documentary that we made about him, talks about he was one of these people who had a slumlord, who was inattentive to, the fact that his apartment was basically collapsing in on him and his mom. He wrote a letter to AOC at the time, did not hear back. And so, it's kind of crazy to see it happen. And I mean, of course, you just have to cheer this on, man. Like it's So I'll work with anyone to do good. I mean, this is clearly a huge step in the right direction. This is probably the most significant thing he's done in terms of really lifting working people up, because I lived in a rent stabilized building. My landlord was a very nice woman. She was not a professional landlord. Her family went back in Williamsburg for 100 years, one of the early Polish immigrants.
Right.
So she was a very nice person, and her brother lived in the building. But, that building was a pre-war building, and it was in rough shape. So, like, even landlords who kind of mean well kind of let things slip a little bit. And then you got these fucking scumbags who are just malicious and deliberately neglectful. Yeah, of course you have to crack the whip on them.
Right. And you're talking about a very small number of people. And you can see the propagandists know that the direct defense of slumlords is not going to play. That's why they have to create a conspiracy theory. No. It's not just going to be them. You heard what the terms of the bill are. You have to reach a very high bar under this legislation before they can take your building.
Right.
But they're going to cast it no. It's just a backdoor way of a communist takeover of real estate. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Because they know they cannot address what this is actually taking on. How do you defend people who have ceilings collapse on children? Right? Like how do you defend that? That's who he's talking about taking buildings from, and fucking A, he should.
Right. Of course. All right, you want to go into the protests, and then we'll take some chants?
Sure. Okay, so praying mantis Zionist here, as Keaton coined her with his inimitable talent for that kind of thing. So this is the protest that was a couple nights back on Tuesday. Her rousing people to come to this protest.
Remember when I said Mamdani was going to destroy our city? Well, he's destroying our city.
This is our city. We will not be intimidated.
So
7
cringe.
p.m. We are protesting right here outside Gracie Mansion, the mayor's house.
We have organized a large protest with strong voices to call out our mayor and his actions. All we need from you is to show up. Mamdani has welcomed radical extremism into our streets. They want to intimidate us. They want to run us out. They want to force us into hiding.
Who?
We won't let them.
Who?
This protest
Who exactly
is about
do you mean?
reclaiming our city. It is about demanding leadership that stands unequivocally for public safety, law and order, and the protection of every community. We need you there. This is not a Jewish issue. This is about keeping New York City safe for everyone. Every person who shows up strengthens our movement and sends a message that New Yorkers will not remain silent.
New York belongs to the people, not to the extremists, not to the intimidation, and not to fear.
Save our city from the terror-enabling jihad-adjacent socialist. 7 p.m., Gracie Mansion. I'll see you here.
Wow.
Okay, now you notice that she did not name one concrete way that he's destroying the city that is not related to Zionism. She couldn't name one thing. She couldn't name one thing. And if she could, she certainly would have. Look, I live here, man. I would tell you. And I say a lot of negative things about the city. But the negative things I have to say about the city are the fact that the soup and burger place is closing now off Astor Place. Do you see that? That's been there forever, man. That's been there.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
I know
God.
the place. Yeah, the big
Been there
sign.
forever. It's closing. It's closing at the end of July because the cost of commercial leases is so high that all the things that made New York have, I would say like 80 to 90% of them are gone already. And every time you turn around, another one is gone. And what's popping up in its place? These, pop-up shops that have lines of trust fund kids waiting to, try an organic snow cone. Like that's something to complain about. But I've traveled the country quite a bit, man. I promise you, no matter where you live in America, it probably sucks more than New York does because the money is here. In the end, there's so much money here. They maintain it at a certain level. Not a China level. That was one of the things I had that you want to talk about culture shock. That was one of the things I wasn't used to when I got back. Like, having fucking crumbling roads and potholes, and their shit is perfect. Everywhere you go, perfect. But it's better than like St. Louis. It's better than LA, frankly. It's better than most places. Certainly better than New Orleans. Better than most places in the country. Because the money is here. There's only a certain level of erosion they're going to allow when Wall Street people are here, and they want, a certain level of quality on the street. So here's some of the protest where. So here's the thing with Nazis. They really lack creativity. They're stealing chants from the Palestinians. It's not enough to steal their land. They have to steal their chants too.
Yeah.
Around, you can't hide. We charge you with hate and lies.
They still can't get themselves to say genocide. I've seen 2 chants from this rally, and they were both stolen from the Palestinians. The other one was a "From the River to the Sea" chant about New York City. Yes, I'm serious, and no, I have no idea which sea they mean.
From the river to the sea, New York City will be free.
Anyhow, I'll repeat the original chant that they were stealing from. Biden, Biden, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. Because until now, allowing Israel to genocide the Palestinians has been bipartisan. But Zoran showed us that it doesn't have to be. That wanting Israel to be a state with equal rights can be electable. And now he's showing that you can stand by that and be a popular mayor. And that's the only thing they're actually protesting.
Yeah. That was pretty funny. Matt Bernstein, New York City today. Knicks going to the NBA Finals. Weather is perfect. Everyone is happy. Zionists for some reason.
Yes.
A picture of Savitsky screaming at City Hall. Ryan Grimm, people at the pro-Israel rally yelling, "Go back to where you came from." Also chants of "From the river to the sea, NYC will be free." There's Orange Maxing Freddy. That was the same guy we took that video from, I think. In case you didn't think the anti-Zoran rally was both racist and a Republican campaign rally, here you go.
Tell Zoran Mamdani you can go back to Uganda to where you came from. Yeah!
You could go back to New Rochelle, where you came from. Go back to Friendly's. Got a few hours left on your shift there.
Okay. No, this is not just like an excuse for racist Zionists to go out and drum up xenophobia. Yeah, man. I'm sorry, man. If you live outside of New York and you buy that these people represent anyone other than Zionists, you are a fucking dupe, man. You are a dupe. And to that point,
I bet most of them are bridge and tunnel people. I bet most of them aren't even New York.
oh yeah, oh yeah. When I went to the troll Sid Rosenberg's rally, man, none of those people were Manhattan people. They were all coming in some of them coming in from New Jersey.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. I don't even think they're like New Yorkers, broadly speaking.
Yeah.
I think they're literally Long Island, New Jersey,
right.
Westchester. Yeah.
Kasim Rashid. Mayor Mamdani had a plus 38 approval rating at inauguration. Now, after a sustained protest against him by those who call him terror advocate, his approval rating jumped to plus 48. These protesters may be loud, but they're detached from New Yorkers who genuinely love their mayor. Yeah, man, because of what Keaton was talking about in the previous segment. It has been so long since any mayor of New York City did not openly and honestly boastfully govern on behalf of the wealthy, that did not govern on behalf of real estate developers and Wall Street, and essentially tell working people, yeah, well, you don't want that socialism. We're not a socialist city, you better work hard and play by the rules, which, in New York is probably even less likely to get you ahead than most places in America, because the rent's so high. To have a New York City mayor who will not look, yeah, there are a lot of Zionists here. They're still not the majority of people. They're not the majority of the city. So to have a mayor who turned around and said, no, fuck you, I'm not going to the Israel Day parade. Eric Adams is doing this. I'm the shadow mayor thing. He put out a video in support of Israel Day. Most New Yorkers like that he's not going to Israel Day because most New Yorkers are not Zionists. You just happen to have more of them here than you have any place else in the country. Right to rape rallies outside of the New York Times, it's not the flex these people seem to think it is. Most people think you're repulsive. And this is why they're so desperate, because if these policies work, they're going to be even more disempowered than they already are. So much of this is them freaking out about being dispowered. They're used to being able to run the city, both the Griffin people, the Forbes people, and the Shmuley people, and the Sid Rosenbergs and the Lizzie Zavetsky's. They're used to feeling ownership of the city. The idea of having a guy who's not just going to bend the knee and do whatever they say, they can't handle it. But they know that a blatant Israel appeal, that's not working. They tried that. Not working. Not working. They're realizing most people don't fucking like them. So they're screaming socialism. They're screaming communism. They're playing the Cold War greatest hits. That's not going to work in a city with 70% renters. You're not going to get a city with 70% renters to say, yeah, why are they going to take the building away from landlords? You'll get fucking retards out in Indiana who have never set foot here, who are going to see that on X and are going to go along with it. But nobody who actually lives here, as you can see from those approval numbers, is actually going to go along with that.
Yeah, and to your point, you talked about how New York, even though it sucks less than most other places in the city. That is a result of the life's work of a lot of the oligarch class who hate Mamdani because they're afraid that he's going to ruin one of the last places left in the country that is a playground for them, right?
Right.
If this
Right.
becomes a working
Yep.
class paradise, where else can I
Right.
sodomize a high-end escort in a penthouse of a hotel with
Right.
floor-to-ceiling windows,
Right.
overlooking the bay? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
this
New
is
York is
this
the
is their last
closest thing you've
holdout.
got to Dubai in America.
Right, exactly. This is kind of their last holdout, and now it has fallen into the enemy's hands. And so, yeah, no, it is completely detached from reality. His poll numbers are through the roof. I think they will remain through the roof. I think he will be reelected in a historic landslide at this rate. Which again, it is for all of what it isn't. It is a proof of concept that you can then show people, hey, when you elect the furthest left candidate in a race, good things happen, not bad things,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And
And that
this
is a
is why I
building block.
say to all of our friends on the left, I know the Mamdani thing is very confusing for people. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not running out to freaking join the Democratic Party or, become a Democratic Party activist. Yeah, I'm not going back there. But, on a case by case basis, I'll support policies and I'll support people, man. Like, if he continues in this direction, will I be more enthusiastically supporting him in a reelection bid than I did the first time around because I didn't expect him to actually follow through and do any of this? Yeah, absolutely. If he continues in this direction, sure. Why
I mean,
not?
so much of the discourse surrounding it is just hyper online stuff. Like,
Yep.
in this bit, what do I say? I say it over and over again. In this business, you're only as good as your last take, and that applies to the commentators, but it also applies to the audience members, and it applies to people who are really locked into their online personality and whatever medium they
Yeah.
choose to
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
present themselves. And
That's
so,
pride fucking with you.
exactly. It's pride fucking with you. It has nothing to do with whether you even like Mamdani. I don't even care whether you like Mamdani or not. Like, I don't particularly love Thomas Massey, really. Like, I think he's a good person, but I think a lot of his ideas are kind of backwards. But I still thought it was important that he win that race, which is why, to the
Right.
extent that we covered it, we were unambiguously supportive of
Mhm.
him. And I even said in our call-in
Sure.
segment, there's a good chance I would end up supporting him should he run for president, because I don't trust Gavin Newsom to evict the fucking data centers. So,
Mhm.
if
Right.
Massey seems to be genuinely committed to like free speech, then that's probably better than whatever fucking piece of shit Democrat is going to weasel their way to the nomination. So, like, I'm not a fan of Thomas Massey. That doesn't mean I wouldn't find efficacy in supporting him in a certain context where there's actual harm reduction on the table. See, I think a lot of people say, because of these last few cycles, that, well, you never vote harm reduction, you never vote lesser evil. I've never
Right.
been against
Yeah.
voting harm reduction so long as it's actual harm reduction. To
Right.
me, if you support a
Yeah.
genocide, you're not harm reduction.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
I didn't
Yes.
think Biden was harm reduction in 2020, and in hindsight, he sure as fuck wasn't. Nobody can look back on 2020 and say we wouldn't have been better off had Trump just won, because he'd have served us 4 more years with his bumbling idiot cabinet and meandering nonsense, and he'd be playing golf right now. Instead, we had 4 years of horror under Biden, half a genocide under Biden, and now this new and improved version of Donald Trump, which is far more the first incarnation. So I didn't think Biden was actual harm reduction. But like Mamdani over Cuomo, yeah, that's easily harm reduction. That is pretty substantial harm reduction. And for the sake of people who live places who are affected by these things, I think it is important to promote actual harm reduction if it is real harm reduction.
Well, this is the hard pill for people to swallow. Having just gone to these communist countries to see what they're about. I came away, on the one hand, really admiring what they've accomplished, and also really appreciating how far we are from that in this country. So at that point, you got to think, what's your role? Like, what are you trying to do? Like, if you see, like, okay, man, yeah, I think an economy should be for the people, but an economy completely built around that pretext, We're like 100 years from that, man.
Of course.
Like 100 years
Of course.
from going where these people are. So at that point, you got to, if what you're actually trying to do is achieve that and not just talk about it, you got to think about tactics. Like, what tactics do you employ? Because whatever accelerationist fantasy you have in this country, that's going to collapse into fascism. It's not going to collapse
no
into
question
communism.
about it.
That
It
is
already
not
has.
going. It already has, exactly. So that's not going to happen. So at that point, you had better take full advantage when you've got a charming, competent, communist identified mayor of New York City. You better take advantage of that to push your agenda, because you're at the very beginning of a very, very long road of changing the mentality of this society. And if society collapses tomorrow, it's not going to be Mao. It's gonna be shiny black boots and blue stars for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's all theory. It's not about theory, it's about community, because theory is abstract and community is real. Gabor Mate, when we interviewed him, he had a great sort of rebuttal to evolutionary psychology. He says, evolutionary psychologists assume that our purpose as humans is survival, and he argues our purpose is actually connection. That's really what it is, more than survival. And that's a really interesting way of looking at it, right? Because you can think that we're doomed either way on this course. And if you are obsessed with that as a sort of headspace, right? As a theory, as well-founded as that theory may be, then you are essentially doomed to a self-defeating worldview at this point, because the momentum is all in one direction.
Right. Yep.
Think of it the way, this is what the great therapists are capable of doing. They're capable of switching, not the world, but switching the way you look at it. Think of it as being about connection. Now, all of a sudden, your goal is to take care of the people around you. Look out for the people around you, right? Look out for your community. Do the best you can by them and for them, and trust and hope and nurture an ethos that then incentivizes them or encourages them to do the same for you. Once you look at it that way, things aren't as bleak, right? Because you're not stuck in a headspace where you're looking at it from 30,000 feet every second and saying this is all crashing and burning. Now you're looking at it in terms of what you can actually tangibly do. You can actually take care of a few people around you, and maybe they can take care of a few people around them. And that is kind of the Mamdani example in the context of these times, right? He can't stop the war in Iran. You know what he could do? He can turn the screws on the landlord whose, son is rubbing shit on the walls and making life hell for the people who live in that building. And you have to get yourself into a headspace where that counts for something, because it does count for something. Your theories at the end of the day count for nothing, because they're not real on their own.
Right. So. And there's why I've never had any patience for that shit. Like, to me, as soon as you say, well, you got to read theory, you're to quote our friend,
you can read it.
You're deeply unserious.
You can read it.
But if that
is your beginning and end,
main flex, right, you have to read theory. Okay, well, maybe that's your fucking problem.
Right.
Maybe that's your problem, that you're spending so much time on theory that you're absolutely useless in a real world practical way. What are you doing beyond that?
Right. Exactly. All right, let's take some Rumble rants and some super chats here. All right. We got what do we got here? 2159 in the YouTube chat. There we go. And we're at 964 in the like column. There we go. Awesome. Let's take some chats here. EO Shush says, an old man from Tel Aviv used to tell me, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times. They have Epstein blackmail material on you. Thank you. EO Shush. Vientica says, sometimes you'll hear pork roll called Taylor ham, but sometimes I've seen Taylor ham made differently than pork roll. Next time you're in Central Jersey, ask for pork roll and egg. All right. Is that where you're from, Vienticus? Central Jersey? I guess if there's a return address on that package you sent me at the mailbox, I'll find out. Nocturnal Human, in 2020, a Trump rally in Iowa City was canceled for low attendance, and the MAGAs were demanding their $2 for parking back. That's why I was surprised he won here. But the city is more left. Wow, that's funny. They were asking for refunds for the $2 parking. Hey, well, that's a gallon of gas in Iowa, right? I guess in 2020 it probably was. Because of COVID, it went down under $2 a gallon here in New York. There's a fee for use of the Panama Canal. No one mentions that, do they? Convenient. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I was reading an article about the tolls and the fees. Apparently, it's against international law to simply charge a toll, which not like that means anything now. You can charge for a service. So I guess the Panama Canal is a service.
I see.
Yeah. So that's it. But I don't know that the Iranians are too obsessed with the letter of international law, since we aren't.
Yes, exactly.
The grease
haven't
trucks
given them much reason to care.
I think their response to that is sue me, bastard. The grease trucks that used to camp out in Slutger's parking lots in New Brunswick would have a sandwich called a fat bitch. A fat bitch at Slutger's. Ha, funny. Rutgers, I know what you mean, but that's just funny. I'm going to go for a fat bitch at Slutger's. Pork roll, egg and cheese with, I think, chicken fingers on a hoagie roll. Interesting. Applejack says, my bad, Keaton. Sheesh, I forgot to hit the like button. No worries, Applejack. Good to see you here, Applejack. Vienticus, people used to come from around the state for the grease trucks. They're gone now, but you have these pizza joints that sell them on Easton Avenue. It's still kind of worth checking out. $1 Million Trooper, I don't think they call them Shabbos Goy, but I hear Mormon soakers will enlist somebody to jump on the bed so they won't be responsible for the resulting friction. I guess that's BB in this analogy. Is that right? I never heard that one. Was that in your 4-volume series on private life? How the Mormons get somebody to sit on the bed? That is interesting.
I've never heard that.
I guess if you have 8 wives, one of them could sit on the bed,
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Professor Brown note, be funny if they found Romans frozen in time in Pompeii caught in Russ's before mentioned naughty act. I don't think the Fratelli d'Italia would showcase that one. Thank you, Professor Brown note. Not a Mamdani fan, but Co-op City baby. Thank you, Applejack. Appreciate that. Well, on the flip side, what constitutes criminally negligent landlords? I can easily see how it can easily be turned around.
Not if the legislation sets the bar at such an extreme level, right? Like it's not like they're leaving it to interpretation. They're being very clear. If you've got 5 violations per apartment, do you know how bad your building has to be?
Yeah.
You have 5 violations per apartment?
Per unit. Yeah, that's insane. Which means you have plenty of warnings to fix the shit. Like, it's not like they come in one day and like, nope, you were on the list. This building is ours now. Like, you're going to get multiple opportunities to remedy the situation where that doesn't happen. But that, as a final leverage point, is, of course, incentive for landlords to be less scummy, like 100%. Without that leverage, they have all the power. Affordable housing, as long as you condemn Iran, Cuba, and Hamas. Liberal Zionism, devil's bargain. Yeah, except that's not the policy. Once again, like, if you live online, you can convince yourself that that's the policy, but it's not.
I mean, it's just so fucking retarded. I'm sorry, man. Like, get off X. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. Like, do you see how coordinated the messaging is?
Right.
They're breaking your brain, man. They're breaking your brain. Get off that shit.
Nina can't. I hope I'm wrong, but there's no way they're going to let Mamdani do this housing thing because it's going to give other states ideas. Well, we will see. We will see. Seems to be in motion. Professor Brown note, makes sense to call it X. The only thing people will know how to sign on the ads via brain chip agreement when idiocracy reaches final solution stage. Yeah. Well, I said before, it's really become a surveillance op. Yeah, but rent control is causing problems for people to fix apartments in their buildings to bring them up to code to rent again. Well, we talked about that. How if you're only taking in $800 a month per unit, it can be difficult to flip the bill for these repairs. But like I said, I lived in a rent stabilized unit. My landlord was like pretty good. There was some stuff that was borderline. She would not have had the place confiscated under this new code. Could have maybe been nudged to like fix the stairs. There were a couple stairs that were loose or whatever. Yeah, I mean that is I think an issue, and they may want to like give support for landlords who are who own like rent controlled units where they're not taking in the kind of revenue that would meet the bill for whatever contract work had to be done. Like that's valid.
Yes, that is definitely a reality. In fact, the people who took over this building from the scumbag who used to run it, he didn't tell them about all the problems in this building.
Oh wow.
He didn't even tell them about his son.
Wow.
They found out when they bought
Holy
it
shit.
and then had to go through a year evicting him from those
Wow.
apartments. They didn't tell him shit, man. There were all kinds of problems with the building they didn't know about. They got pretty screwed taking over this building. It's not that doesn't exist. I personally, under the system that we have, like the mechanism to deal with that, and it's been talked about, like creating a program for small landlords in that position. I would support that. You just have to remember, okay, I think that's a solution. What isn't a solution is, well, okay, so suppose you solve it the way that these, Kevin O'Leary would solve it. Okay, so landlords should be able to charge whatever they want so that people who need a place to live can't afford it unless they have a trust fund.
Right.
Like that's their way of solving it, right?
Right.
Like, charge whatever they want. That's not a solution. That's who is the economy for? At that point, you have to ask, well, should the government run housing, right? Should the government just provide housing? Because if the other option is, well, if you leave it to private interests, no one who isn't wealthy can afford a place to live, like that's not a solution. Yeah, like people who are in that position where the rents are low, so they can't afford to make the repairs. Yeah, there should be some kind of way of addressing that. But the way to address that is not, well, got to deregulate.
Right.
That's it.
Right. John Olmsted, I live in Longview where the chemical spill happened. I'm fine, but 8 people literally got liquefied, and I don't blame them for saying the water. I don't believe them saying the water is fine.
Well, yeah, that's like East Palestine, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I believe the Institute for Justice is representing some landlords because of this issue. I can actually see this as a scheme to take property from smaller property owners. I really don't think so.
Yeah,
Because I think if
that's
you're
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're an honest landlord who is like has a rent controlled building, like my landlady did. Like I think if she had a problem where she literally just could not pay for a repair that had to be, I think if you're an honest person and you make that known, I would think there would be some kind of support for you, and you would be miles away from having the building confiscated. Like these are very, like basically what this is a deterrent. It's not going to happen in the overwhelming majority of cases. In the overwhelming majority of cases, landlords are going to realize I'm sitting on one of the hottest commodities on earth, which is a building in New York City. I better get my shit together and fix it so they don't take it. That's going to be the overwhelming result of this, is not the city confiscating buildings, but landlords being less shitty. That's really what's going to be the result of this. Now, in the paranoid Fox News boomer brain, they think this is a scheme to confiscate buildings. No, it's actually a deterrent against having to confiscate
they want you
buildings.
to think that.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, in the people who are propagandized by that.
It's very hard to just straight out defend slumlords.
Right.
They have to have an angle.
Vienticus, here's the IJ's article on the issue. They do a lot of good work, and it's worth a read. Thank you, Vienticus. Appreciate that. Sparky, so what you guys are saying, bottom line, we'd have a great economy and worldwide peace if only they had finished the White House ballroom. Thank you, Sparky. Yes, Xander Varkov, I'm sorry, but I can't accept socialism giving me only one kind of cheese whiz to choose from. Thank you, Xander Varkov. Vienticus says, it's almost kind of annoying to say that Dim Tool has a point. Well, rethink your premise. Moba Vilgus, Mamdani manufactured consent for war with Iran. Okay. Sparky, the economy is for lenders and assorted finance. Well, yes, and it's a religion, like capitalism has become a religion. This is the old Tucker versus Ben Shapiro debate, where he's like, yeah, I'm a capitalist, but capitalism is not a religion. It's not infallible. I don't work backwards from the premise that it must be defended in every context. Like, if it's not working for people, what good is it?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Comrade Orange Schnick said, oy vey, shut it down. The schmucks know too much. That's right. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate that. All right, we will move right on along here. Before we do, just a quick word from our friends at Rumble. So, quick question for you. How much control do you actually have over your money right now? Technology has changed everything, including how we own and manage our money. And Rumble is in on the action. That's why we're here to talk about Rumble Wallet, because it takes all the complexity of the new economy and makes it super simple. It's also a super simple, easy, and efficient way to support the creator economy here on Rumble. So to get started, you can choose which currency you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stable coins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, your debit card, or your bank, and you can be up and running on Rumble Wallet in just minutes. And once you're set up, you can, of course, support your favorite Rumble creators like us directly using a Rumble Rant system that takes zero fees for the platform. So it's a great way to support channels like ours. So you can get started right now by scanning the QR code or clicking the link in the description and downloading Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and get in the game in minutes. So scan that QR code right now. You can go to wallet.rumble.com to get started. Once you are, sending that Rumble Rant is just as easy as it is now. You just choose the dollar amount, write what you got to write, and then right before you send, it'll give you the option to tip in USD or through your Rumble Wallet. Super easy, no added steps. So get started right now, wallet.rumble.com, or scan that QR code right on the screen. Okay, let's move right on along here. All right, what do we got next? Oh, yeah, Norman. What
do you got left? That and what?
That's all I got left. And then you got...
Oh, and I got the... Oh, so we should make the... I was wondering if I should change the premiere time. No, we should...
We can if we get
actually make 3:15.
Yeah, we should make 3:15. Yeah, we should make 3:15. This ain't a very long one. All right, folks. Tucker Carlson, yes, to one of our previous Super Chatters points, seems to be reaffirming that, yes, Israel has committed a genocide. So Tucker said what a lot of people have been thinking, but no one in mainstream media will touch. His new monologue argues October 7th wasn't a surprise, that the Likud government had genocidal intent toward Gaza, that the goal was never Hamas, but the land. So we'll listen to a little bit of this.
From the first week after October 7th, that Israel planned to commit genocide, traditionally defined genocide, targeting a population because of their bloodline and trying to exterminate or move them. Everyone,
look at that. He found out what it was. Look at that. Just after we told him to.
Knew this because Israel announced it. Twice in October of 2023, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, said out loud in a public speech, the Palestinians are Amalek. Amalek, a reference that many in the West didn't get, but everyone in the region understood. And it's a reference to 1 Samuel 15. The first verses in it, which you should read, because it tells you a lot about what Israel's doing now. But those verses describe God's command to eliminate a tribe called the Amalekites. And not just the draft age men, but all of them.
Okay. So that's from his most recent episode. This aired a few days before then. So Norm actually tweeted this out from his account, and I'm assuming he has a person who handles his social media. I don't believe Norm Finkelstein is on X himself, because he just kind of posts links to stuff. But this is an interview that he gave, the sinister plot behind the far-right shift on Israel. Norm Finkelstein interview. This is from the Politics Joe channel, fairly big channel here. So this, even though Norm posted
there are so many big channels you've never heard of.
Oh, yeah. Well, YouTube is a
Who
big
the fuck
space.
are they? Who's Politics Joe? I've never heard of that.
I never heard of it either. It's a big internet out there. All right, so there's a couple clips that we're going to play here. So here's Norman Finkelstein thinks Palestine is now only a right-wing cause because there are not any prominent left-wing podcasters. Let's take a look.
The right. I mean, was never a cause of the right. I mean, Israel was in the sense of there were anti-Semites who didn't like Israel. Of course, I met them when I first got involved. It was clear they didn't like Israel, and they used Palestine as a way of getting at Israel. But it's never a cause of the right. Oppressed peoples, a right-wing cause. Third world people, a right-wing cause. Suffering, human suffering, a right-wing cause. Not really. It was always, I won't say always, but because there was a period where Jews were the oppressed group. And when a portion of that oppressed group decided to found their own state, that seemed a plausible response to the Nazi Holocaust. And that group all claimed to be socialists. They all claimed to be leftists. Ben-Gurion fashioned himself, and he was seen as the Zionist Lenin. That's what he was called. He was the Zionist Lenin. So for all those reasons, Israel was a left-wing cause, not the Arabs, because the Arabs were seen back then as being the Effendis, the feudalists, the kings and the pashas and all that. So they were the right wing. Now, obviously, it's changed. So since you could say roughly 1967, that's kind of the breaking point. Palestine was a left-wing cause. It was a part of it was solidly in the left trajectory. National liberation struggle, armed struggle, suffering of oppressed peoples, third world struggle. So it felt naturally, as I said, in my historic tradition. But now suddenly, it's become a right-wing cause. The main exponents of criticism of Israel, the left no longer has any salience, because it has no salience in the podcast world whatsoever. The closest thing to a left person.
What are you trying to say over here?
He's stabbing us in the back here.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, he's making a similar
I was going to take him out for hot dogs.
Yeah. He's making a similar point to a point that I made, which is that, the anti-Israel right is going to have a lot more influence over the conversation for the time being than the anti-Israel left. Not necessarily because they have more famous podcasters than the left does, which is true, but they have more political power than the left does now. So I think that's the main driving force behind that.
The podcast world, it's only one. It's Mehdi Hassan, and he's not even a left. He's not a person of the left by any stretch.
Mehdi Hassan what did he call Mehdi Hassan? A sack of shit. You're a sack of shit, Mehdi. Yeah. Yeah. He really does not like Mehdi Hassan. So that's one clip just kind of setting up this idea that, hey, since when did the right care about Palestine? Okay. So Keith Woods tweets out, incredible. Norman Finkelstein has been a single issue activist his whole adult life, and that issue was Palestinian liberation. You might think he would be the first person to welcome opposition to Israel becoming bipartisan, but now he's actually upset that people on the right are obsessed with Israel. He spends most of this interview kvetching about how Tucker Carlson is promoting anti-Semitism by saying Israel controls America. I don't know if I'd go that far, but okay. And plays out his nightmare scenario where someone like Tucker runs on an America First platform that normalizes addressing Jewish loyalty to Israel. That's fair enough. Interestingly, he considers this scenario much worse than continued rule by Zionists. Okay, that's interesting. So let's take a look at this clip.
Why did they suddenly become obsessed? You listen to Tucker Carlson now. There's barely a conversation which is not about Israel. Why did they suddenly become obsessed with that? And I consider that a troubling development, because it's very easy to imagine a Tucker Carlson running for president in 2028 on the platform of the real America First, because now he's saying Trump abandoned that slogan. He's betrayed his campaign promises. A campaign platform of the real America First and the wire pullers who are controlling our country. Those outsiders with internal support, what was called, beginning with the Spanish Civil War, they were called the fifth column. There were 4 columns of troops who were marching on Madrid, the those who wanted to overthrow this Franco's people who wanted to overthrow the Spanish Republic. And then it was said by the loyalists, those who were loyal to Spain, the Republic, they said there's a fifth column inside Madrid. The fifth column. And now Jews here in the US are the fifth column, working with the wire pullers in Israel who control the Trump administration because they have secret information on him and Epstein. And according to Tucker Carlson, literally, this is not hyperbole, Tucker Carlson says, Trump, poor Trump, he's sweating at night. He's being blackmailed with the Epstein files.
Okay, but the thing is, that seems overwhelmingly likely, you know?
Yep.
You know, I saw some people in the chat curious how we would go on this. Two tribesmen ourselves, or our true colors going to come out in this segment, you know, because that's a thing, you know, when you're Jewish and you comment on Israel, Palestine, you know, the second you say anything that someone takes issue with is, I told you couldn't trust it. Like we had that with like when Daryl Cooper thing came up, you know, that's when, you know, people started talking shit about, oh, look, you're showing your true colors. Or when Russell did the Jew Tunnel sequel on the Jimmy Dore show, you know, we got a lot of that. So there's always some of that.
Still get it, man. Still get it. You got some people who are still butthurt about that. We drop in our comments once in a while.
Yeah. So there's always some of that.
Still talking about the Jew tunnels. This is like fucking 2 years ago.
And 2 years ago with the tunnels. Yeah, I know. That was a long time ago, those fucking Jew tunnels. Anyway, so look, I mean, I love Norm. I think he's a giant. You know, I think some of his flaws are some of the idiosyncrasies that kind of make him the unique figure that he is. The fact that he is
recommend
an academic.
Everybody read the work of my new podcast partner, Michael Tracy, on the subject of Epstein.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I love Norm, but I think on this point, he's wrong. Like, look, we just covered this earlier on the show. Like, to me, it is really difficult to escape the assumption that what Tucker is saying and what Tucker is implying, or what a lot of the right-wing podcasters are implying about this network between Trump and Epstein, or Epstein-like forces influencing his decision-making, quote unquote, on Israel, I think that is like overwhelmingly likely based on the evidence. I don't think that's trafficking in any kind of trope, you know, or even engaging in too much like conspiracism. I mean, you don't have to know a thing for sure to say this seems likely based on the evidence, and it seems overwhelmingly likely based on the evidence.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not surprised that he's going in that direction. You know, Norm, this is the thing, man. Like, you can't take away from him. He definitely lit his career on fire. And I saw, I think this was a back and forth with Max online. You know, somebody was pointing out, listen, you know, at the time that he took this stand, there wasn't like an alternative career route, you know, podcasts and things, right? Like he really went out on a limb. At the same time, man, even when we interviewed him, I did pick up like he would not go so far as to say Israel does not have a right to exist as a Jewish state. He wouldn't say that. We asked him that, and he wouldn't say it. So look, man, I mean, for people his age, it's very hard to go all the way with that shit, man. It is. And I think that's some of what you're seeing here. Like, sure, there is something about the whole Epstein story that plays to a lot of anti-Semitic tropes, but unfortunately it has the virtue of being true.
Yeah.
I mean, if
it wasn't Mike Huckabee's island, you know, we wish it was.
Yeah, if it had been, that would have been pretty funny. They would have had with that Chick-fil-A over there.
Yeah, Arthur Treacher's fish there.
A very different kind of a setup. But it just wasn't. Yeah, and you know what's funny, man? Like you see Spielberg, who's not, exactly what you'd call an anti-Zionist crusader. You look at his movie Munich, like until this really became a liability, even Zionists pretty openly admitted that Israel practiced these kinds of dark arts to get its way. I mean, that's that whole movie, right? Is them bending moral lines in order to assassinate people and, honeypots and all kinds of stuff.
That's
so
basically like Kill Bill, only real.
Only
You know what I
real,
mean?
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And nobody
Yeah.
said, "Oh my God, that's anti-Semitic." Now that the whole Epstein thing has burst into the open, now that October 7th has generated enormous ill will towards Israel, what? Now you're supposed to pretend Israel doesn't operate that way, and that Epstein blackmailing these people is not entirely plausible based on the evidence. But I think because of the age that Norm is, in the end, man, as much as admirable as his career has been, I think he has a certain lens. And that was evident even when we interviewed him a couple of years back.
Well, I think, and I'll keep playing this after this, but I also think as an academic, look at all the books he has just in that frame there, and he talks about how he has shelves and shelves and shelves of human rights reports from Gaza that he had read obsessively for decades. I think when you have the depth of knowledge that he has, and you're an academic, and that's how you approach issues, I think you may develop a certain contempt for speculation, right? Like a certain disregard for people making arguments that they can't prove, right? Because you have all of this, you're armed with all this information that most people are not armed with. That's kind of where you see the debate as being held. Whereas if you're going to speculate about Trump and Epstein, well, there's not volumes and volumes of literature that you can reference about that because it's hidden information. So I think that could be part of it too. But let's play some more of this.
He's also look, man. I've met Norm in person. That guy's roided out, man. Norm is like the RFK of anti-Zionists.
You think he's roided or just wiry?
He's roided out, man. That guy's pumped.
He exercises.
Norm is pumped, man. He's like fucking for a guy that age.
Yeah, and he even gets into this in this interview. He's so morbid.
Probably,
I
think this is roid rage.
Yeah, for a guy in such good shape, he's very morbid too. In this interview, I only have a few years left. First of all, you're not that old. Second of all, you're in better shape than most people my age. So I think you'll be fine. You'll be around a little bit.
Israel. I don't recall he explicitly saying the Epstein files, but he says others have said it, obviously. He's being, I know a lot of people on the left is completely bonkers at this point. I mean, it's not really a left. You're talking about the historic left, it has nothing to do with it.
But like bonkers, why? Because we suspect that the Epstein class has blackmail on Trump. I mean, John Kiriakou said, I worked at the CIA. Whenever the Israeli prime minister would come to Washington, they'd ask whoever the president was to invade Iran, and every president said no. And everybody in this president's inner circle apparently said no, don't do it, and he did it anyway. So what? It's not reasonable to suspect we're bonkers? Yeah. Like I don't buy it.
It's very easy to imagine the real America first with those trees and this American Jews working hand in glove with the wire pullers in Israel. That could take off. That could take off. You know what's the biggest problem, my friend or comrade? The biggest problem is a lot of what Trump says is true. That's the problem. American Jews carried on, especially as a minority. Now, I'm not saying as a minority you're obliged to tone it down. No, But you have to recognize Jews, they're 2% of the American people, less than 2%. That puts you in a precarious position. The Jewish leadership carried on a completely irresponsible, completely brazen, flagrant way.
Okay, so you can see what he's getting at there. And what he's getting at there is what we've talked about in the past, how this is going to create blowback against Jews and a real wave of anti-Semitism. And look, I don't blame him for being concerned about that, but I do understand how people can watch that and come away with that being his main concern, right? With his main concern being, look, because Jews as a minority have behaved so irresponsibly over these past few years, especially at the institutional level, how, this is going to embolden a right wing with a real anti-Semitic undercurrent. Look, I agree that is a problem. But that's, as Jews, that's our problem. That's not the rest of society's problem, and it sure as shit is not the Palestinians' problem. Right. And we'll get into that because there is a Palestinian writer who basically said the same thing. And you know what? I don't blame them. Like, I don't like it. We don't like it. We warned about this since October 7th. We said this is going to create a big problem for Jews, and we're Jews. I sent my kids not because we knew somebody who worked at a Jewish daycare center right when we were getting our kids enrolled in daycare. This was pre-October 7th. And actually, ironically, the person who we knew who was a counselor there is like this very base, like Green Party member. I'm sure she's a pro-Palestine. I don't know how she still works there, if she still works there now. It must be torture if she does. That's why we sent our kids to a Jewish daycare. But the daycare center was up the stairs behind locked doors away from the synagogue for this reason, because they felt they were under threat even before October 7th. And so I'm very sympathetic to that, but that is our problem as a Jewish community to the extent that we are one, and to the extent that Russ and I are part of it. This is the thing. People are like, well, why don't you speak out against the Jewish institutions? Listen, we don't pull any weight at the synagogue. Like, they would be as hostile to us as they would to you if you're a non-Jew talking about pro-Palestine stuff. So it's a very difficult situation. I don't blame him for being worried about that, but the way you phrase it there makes it look like you're more worried about that than you are worried about reigning in Israel, right? It kind of makes you feel, and I'm not saying that's where he's coming from. We all talk into a microphone a lot. I'm not going to nail him to the cross for this, pardon the mixed metaphor. But, it does kind of come off that way. Like, I don't blame people for taking it that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I definitely see, as radical as Norm is for his background, he's still, man, he comes from Holocaust survivors, man. Like, that whole, society turning against the Jews. I mean, it's like the central phobia of the Jewish community, right? I mean, it's what you're raised with. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. And he does say, like, the Jewish leadership has caused this.
Of course.
And they have. And
he's written about the Holocaust industry and all that. I mean, he gets called a denier by the lunatic.
I know he does. And he was way out ahead on the Holocaust industry. But yeah, no, Norm's been incredibly brave at great personal sacrifice. But what I see here is a guy of a certain generation hearing these, eternal tropes that are central to the Jewish understanding of the world as being, where society, German or, Persian or whatever. This is what happens right before they come round us up. And that's not wrong. I mean, we have been saying that since October 7th. The problem is Israel. You cannot. Israel does more to threaten Jews than a million chapters of Stormfront ever could, right, on a daily basis. That is your problem. You need to unequivocally call for the end of the apartheid state. There's no hemming and hawing about it. It's you need to openly call for that and try to build more Jewish support within it because, hey, 82% of Jews support Israel as a Jewish state. That includes your liberal ones. I know you're going to do tonight that Crystal interview with the J Street guy. Most of them do, and it's so you can't blame people for thinking that's what Judaism is. When you got synagogues having freaking land sales,
yeah,
in the West Bank, how do you separate those things? Those people are jeopardizing the lives of Jewish people. In terms of, can you take the right wing seriously on this? I mean, I understand his concerns. Like, there's a reason that you're right wing, right? Like, there's a reason that you went towards that ideology. They're not known for not wanting to round people up and put them in camps and other them and xenophobia and ethnocentrism. And I think what he's basically arguing is, if you pursue their version of this, that's where it goes. And he's not wrong about that. But I don't know what your solution is. Like, you're supposed to reject the help of a Tucker Carlson or a Marjorie Taylor Greene, especially when you've got mealy-mouthed AOC is what the other side has to offer. Like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, and well, look, just judging by it, you judge everybody as an individual too. Like, do I think Marjorie Taylor Greene's anti-Israel advocacy now, if you want to call it that, or anti-Israel position now, is based on anti-Semitism? No, I don't. Like, I really don't. Like, I do think she sees these videos of these Palestinian kids being blown to bits, and I think it affects her. That seems to be genuine. If it seems like it's coming from another place, well, you evaluate that on an individual basis. But do I think Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens are motivated by anti-Semitism? No, I don't sense that from them. Like, I really don't. If I did, I would say it. I mean, with a guy like Fuentes, you have a stronger case in that direction. But I don't sense that
I agree.
from Tucker and Candace. And Norm sat with Candace Owens for 2 interviews. She gave him 2 interviews, including one at the Daily Wire. You could imagine that conversation. Go ahead.
I think the argument holds up more when you're talking about structurally. Like, who are the people in that movement, right? Whatever you might think about them, and I would tend to agree with you. Who are their followers? Like, if you build an anti-Zionist movement from that quarter, come on, we know from the Darryl Cooper thing, man. Like,
well,
we know who these fucking people are. They're Nazis.
But if
like, a lot of the people who are into that are Nazis.
Sure, I think
literally Nazis.
Yeah, but I mean, what if the left, rather than shun someone like a Tucker or a Candace, who I don't think has those motivations, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they do, then wouldn't dialogue with them make some kind of progress in affecting the character of that movement? Like, I think you're kind of assuming that all you're there to do is carry water for a right wing that's not going to listen to you. This is what Sam Cedar said about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Well, if we welcome her into our tent because she's speaking out against Israel, all we're doing is empowering her. Well, that's a very depressing way of looking at yourself. Like, don't you think you have the ability to influence the character of these things? If one way you're not going to influence the character of these things is by sitting back and saying we can't do this because of who they are. This speaks to another. Well, let me not even finish that point for now, because that'll come up in a minute. Let me get through some of this. All right, so let's see some reactions. So Quarter Zip, the Jew, see, this is what I mean. You get some of this, of course. The Jew who says Israel's committing a genocide and has run a successful propaganda campaign for decades thinks it's outrageous to suggest Jews have a disproportionate ability to influence American politics. Crazy. And then Keith Wood says what's crazy is immediately after he talks about Jewish supremacist billionaires shutting down criticism of Israel at the universities, which he has talked about throughout his career. So here is Janine Eunice, friend of show. She wrote a response to this. I've now listened to half of this, and I can say that my esteem for Norm Finkelstein has dropped precipitously. He asked incredulously and rhetorically whether anyone can possibly believe right-wingers care about suffering and oppression dismissively concluding they don't, and all ostensible concern for Palestine is really just about anti-Semitism. I know a number of right-wingers, including people I've never heard of, so I can't speak to them reasonably well, and I guarantee they are driven by Palestinian suffering more than concern for America first. They are also driven more by genuine concern than many left-wingers who simply use Palestine to virtue signal and are willing to destroy the pro-Palestine movement from within in order to do so. We've done a couple segments about that already this afternoon. Ha ha. Finkelstein posits America First concern for Palestinian suffering as antithetical values. Actually, the point I've heard many right-wingers cogently make, including Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, who I disagree with on many other issues, by the way, is that it is automatically detrimental to America to enable and ratify gross human rights violations. So the two are complementary. We can advance our values when we are actively destroying them in other parts of the world. Apparently, right-wingers do not talk about the Holocaust enough for Finkelstein's satisfaction, which he believes evinces inherent anti-Semitism. Isn't this the same guy who wrote the book of the Holocaust industry? Maybe it's time to concentrate on the Holocaust happening now, not the one that happened 80 years ago, with many others in between, by the way. And given how the Nazi Holocaust has been weaponized to kill Palestinians and ironically commit a new Holocaust, I think it's reasonable to determine we've discussed it enough and the right lessons haven't been learned. Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that.
Well said.
Finkelstein warns about handing your enemies their arguments on a silver platter. He just did that in this podcast. Yeah, I agree with a good deal of that, I have to say, if not all of that. And I think point number two, you know, when you frame the issue as anti-Zionism being actually in America's best interest, again, this is just a language the left is not used to speaking, right? And that is another disconnect, I think. But this is a really interesting one. So as you can see, this is a very, very long post, so I'm not going to read this whole thing for time's sake. But this is from Free Palestine TV. This is by Laith Marouf.
Yeah, I read this.
Nick Cruz has had on his show a couple times. And so this is a long one, but I'll read what I think are the key points. Before addressing the statements of Finkelstein, I would like to point out a very important fact. Our strategic goal as Palestinians is to liberate Palestine and our people at any cost. We have not an atom of care what happens to Jews in Judaism, trespassing on our homeland, or inside imperial domains after or during liberation. We do not allow the issue of the fate of Jews in Judaism to cloud our tactical maneuvers to achieve our strategic goal, i.e., to end the genocide of our people and the colonization of our lands. Let's be very clear. This is later in the piece, as you see, it's very lengthy. Let's be very clear. Palestinian, Arabic, and Muslim commentators who lean right had huge success in convincing the conservative white circles correctly that they can maintain the empire even if they give up on Israel, and that Israel is hurting their cause. Nobody can deny imperial support for genocide at the hands of Jews, destroyed 100 years of accumulated soft and military power for the empire. Truth is, the left in the empire, mainly led by Jewish voices, refused to address the question and lynched any Palestinian, Arabic, and Muslim voices who addressed it. In fact, the majority of times Jewish supremacy or control were addressed from a left perspective was Jewish left voices like Fink speaking on right platforms. As I mentioned, he went on Candace Owens twice.
Right.
In any case...
Not going to see him on Maddow.
No, not going to see him on Maddow. That's for sure. And apparently you won't see him on Tucker either, which is interesting. We have this at the end. In any case, it is not our responsibility as Palestinians to save Jews or Judaism from what may come after the liberation of Palestine or during that process, especially when not one Jew wants to risk their life to save Judaism from Jewish supremacy or to save those persecuted in its name. But there is a never-ending lineup of Jews that want to talk and write about it, like Fink. So, yeah, I mean, I think I read something like that and I say, how do you blame them? Like, of course, like it's not their problem what the consequences of this are for Jews. It's for Jews to speak out against Israel as much as possible. And to your point, the more Jews speak out against Israel as an apartheid state as it is currently constituted, not just against the genocide and the recent crimes, but against the whole premise that there should be an apartheid state carved out for Jews. The more Jews speak out against that, the less blowback against Jews there will be. It's that simple. It's that simple. And, you know, as a man of peace who wants to see no one hurt, that is part of why we speak out on this issue as Jews. It's a very small part of why. The much bigger part of why is that there's a genocide happening, and it's absolutely gutting. You know, like, we don't talk about this to save Judaism or redeem Judaism, and I think that is kind of the main rift here, is that I think people are sensing in Norm a desire to safeguard Jews and Judaism from the consequences of having really aided and abetted the crime of our century. And like I said, I'm a man of peace here. I don't want anybody getting hurt. I think the way to avoid that is for as many Jews as possible to speak out against this, especially at the institutional level. Now, where I will cut Norm some slack here, perhaps, and shouldn't even say cut Norm some slack. I would just say, to be fair to people who make this demand of anti-Zionist Jews, as I said before, we're not any more welcome at the synagogue than any of you guys. So that is not like something we can just do if we want. We cannot simply will that into being. And so it's hard. Like, it is really hard. Like I said, I am the last guy to cancel Norm Finkelstein. I do not think that is called for. I think he's a giant. I think he's an extraordinarily brave person. But I think, you know, he has created the impression, especially in promoting this interview, which he did, using the same log line as the interviewer, which is that there's this sinister plots to claim anti-Zionism for the right, and that has to be the main focus because they're going to empower anti-Semites. I think he has created the impression in a lot of people's minds that he's more concerned with redeeming Jews and Judaism than he is in really confronting a lot of the underpinnings of these arguments. And like I said, I say seems that way because I'm not willing to say that about Norm. I think his body of work is massive and hugely important. And as someone who's, you know, had the pleasure of talking to him a few times, he strikes me as a very good person who's very willing to sacrifice a lot. So I'm not going to go scorched earth on a guy, but I think those are the impressions that he left with a lot of people in this exchange. And I think that's why it's made such a splash online.
Yeah, well, I think, I don't know his name, the Palestinian poster there that you quoted from.
Yeah. Is it Laith or Laith? Sorry, I want to make sure I get his name right. Let me see. Laith Maruf.
Laith Maruf. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Like, what do they care? In terms of the things he's expressing concern about, as I said, as you pointed out, you know, we've certainly gotten our taste of what a lot of these anti-Zionist conservatives are about. Yeah, man, a lot of them are anti-Semites who are using Palestine as an issue where they can glom onto as an avenue for expressing their anti-Semitism in a more roundabout, less direct way. That's absolutely true. That is a problem for later. At this particular moment where you have a people being genocided, and in terms of why I personally feel a special obligation to speak up about this, as Jews, it is very rare that you're in one of those positions where other people can't speak on this the way that you can because you're a member of the group involved. That doesn't come up for us a lot. This is a rare case where we have a special moral obligation and a special authority to speak on this that other people can't. So I definitely feel a moral calling to do everything that I can because I am in that position. My voice does carry more weight than a non-Jew's would, right, to add to that argument. Look, you got to take your allies where you can when you're talking about a genocide. And I do think part of what it is with, I think he's right. Like, Norm can't get out of the mindset of, in the end, protecting Jews is a priority. It's as you say, I don't want anyone hurt. That shit's not a priority for me. Like,
Right.
I don't want to see people rounded up in camps. I don't want to see Palestinians genocided.
Right, exactly.
At the moment, we have the one problem, not the other.
Right.
If the other should arise, I'll fight that too.
Exactly.
Okay, but we are where we are. We have the allies that we have, and to reject them, frankly, that's typical kind of left infighting bullshit. I can't take that ally because they have a different point of view than me on most things.
Well,
Who
the irony
cares?
too is Norm wrote
Who
a whole
gives a
book
shit?
about Norm wrote a whole book about that, a huge book called "I'll Burn That Bridge When I Get to It," which is a
Right.
great title, about the stubborn, up their own ass left. Right, like he
Right.
wrote a whole book about that, just like he wrote a whole book about the Holocaust industry. Right. Now, I have to, in fairness, play this because this is an interesting caveat to what we've been saying, at least as it pertains to why did Norm diss Tucker, right? Well, here he reveals that maybe Tucker kind of dissed him because what he reveals in this section of the interview is that he talked with Tucker on the phone for a while in what seemed like a pre-interview, maybe audition to come on Tucker's show, and then he never heard from him again. So let's just play this.
Tucker Carlson personally. I don't know Tucker Carlson personally. I once had a long phone conversation with him where it was a kind of what you might call a pre-interview, and which is normal. He wants to assess whether I was the type of personality he wanted on his program. And that's perfectly reasonable. And I didn't pass muster. Exactly why I didn't pass muster, I can't answer that question.
I
It
told
could
him
have
I
been
was a
because I came
vegan and he
across as
hung
too
up.
academic for the kind of program he does, though that's now a little bit implausible because he had Jeffrey Sachs on, and Jeffrey Sachs is a top rank, probably in the top 1% in our country, in the U.S. So
he wouldn't shut up. I do my show before dinner time. I have to eat by 6 o'clock. I can't have you on the show if you don't stop talking. What is wrong with you?
I'm now doubtful that was the explanation. Another explanation is that I'm a person firmly of the left, and my whole outlook is colored by my sense of loyalty and faithfulness to a historic tradition with which all its errors, mistakes, and crimes notwithstanding, I still think was basically right. And maybe that's
Yeah. So, I think it is possible that Tucker didn't want someone on who was that squarely of the left. I think that is possible, right? You always have to imagine where the other person is coming from. That is certainly a possibility. On the other hand, I would have to say that, the tradition that Norm speaks so highly of is a tradition of struggle, which is how the left puts it very romantically as struggle. What it really is a tradition of defeat. That's what it is. It's a tradition of defeat
in the
defeat
West.
after defeat. Yes, and failure after failure after failure. And I think an adherence to that strikes me as more stubborn than productive. Now, could that have rubbed Tucker a certain way where he said, this guy's just too off brand because he's too much of a commie and that's not who watches my show? Yeah, that's certainly possible. We should be open-minded about that. And I think that the willingness to be open-minded and think across the aisle, if you will, to put it very sort of crudely, I think that should be expected of everyone, including Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor
No, man.
Greene.
I mean, he's the only one who covered Yeshitela in the corporate media.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you have to count that as well. So what is it? Is it an example of Finkelstein's stubbornness or Tucker's unwillingness to go too far off brand? I don't know which one is the case, but I do think that, look, Norm is old school, man. He says in this interview, I'm old school. And he is old school. And that's part of the charm of a guy like Norm, but that could also be a flaw, right? You can be old school to a fault. The fact of the matter is the left is out of power right now. And they're out of power for many of the reasons that he wrote about in his book, which came out prior to October 7th.
Yeah, that was the first interview we did with him, right?
Yes, about the PMCification of the left and the non-binary this and the 50 different genders that and the wokeness and the Robin DiAngelo like that. But that is all born of a certain closed-mindedness and a certain determination to, as Greenwald once tweeted so well, a desire to shrink as a movement rather than grow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he has some of those tendencies himself.
Yep.
All right. Why don't we take some super chats and rumble rants? I'm going to get the scroll going. Do you want to take some rants?
All right.
All right. Go ahead.
The Anticus Prime. I think another fair thing to point out is that we have a much larger rate of price inflation than we did years ago. So if people can't charge more rent, Vianticus, are you a landlord? How can they make repairs? I'm starting to think you're a landlord. Are you a slumlord, Vianticus Prime? Vianticus Prime, a slumlord? Does he have like some rat-infested shithole in Starrett City or something?
Are you the monopoly man of Atlantic City? You're a Jersey guy. Do you own property? Do you own Baltic Avenue, Vianticus? Do you have 3 houses on Baltic Avenue that we don't know about?
He was very concerned about landlords. Vianticus Prime, it's the same principle of increasing workers' wages because the cost of everything, including housing, is going up. Well, you know what, Vianticus, you're making an argument. I don't know if this is your intention. You're making an argument for a communist revolution. That's the argument. Because otherwise, to just follow your logic, people shouldn't be able to afford housing. Like you're arguing the economy shouldn't be regulated. Like that's the other direction to go in. So at that point, I have to ask, what good is it, right? So I didn't know you were a communist, but all right, you know, maybe you should share some of your insights into Lenin next time you.
Or maybe you're a landlord.
Super chat, or maybe you're a landlord. Yeah. Oh, George.
Maybe you got a piece of Reading Railroad.
Yeah. Ohev Shalom means I love peace. Another ironic name like Benjamin, gift from God. Is that what Netanyahu means? I didn't even know that. I guess, yeah, Yahoo. Yeah. Vianticus Prime. Don't mind me. I'm just rifling through the nuance. Like I said, I can easily see how all this can be abused. Well, that's because you're a landlord, man. Landlord. That's it. From now on, we're going to call you Vianticus the Landlord Prime. Gareth Richmond. I'm a bit behind in the show, but Shaky Pete's face and child-sized suit sitting next to Donnie Baby Hands while he rambles nonsense is absolutely hilarious. Yeah, man, this is quite a ball club they've assembled there.
Oh yeah.
Alan Lee, I want to know where Russ gets his t-shirts. All right. Well, so the algorithm has me pegged, and they send me a lot of stuff that they think I'll like, and every now and then they're right. So it's various sources. I mean, really what I got to do is get my shit together to be like a brand ambassador for these t-shirt companies, because most of them will like give you a code, like if you want to sell the shirt,
yeah,
get like a percentage. Given that I do this as part of the whole show, it's just, you know, when you're putting together a show, you just don't have time to deal with shit like that.
Right.
Mr. Fancy Pants, the fact they couldn't get Frank Rizzo out there is all you need to know. Keaton didn't get that. He's too young.
No.
Frank Rizzo, get me Brett Weir, I said. It's the jerky boys. The Anticus Prime. I'm locked into my online personality of loving bacon. I love bacon. I usually have it at my favorite greasy spoon once a week. I allow it once a week. Professor Brown note coming on CBS. The Zio Gadfly, a mad anorectic on the verge of success, but a mantis enters the molecular transporter, and out comes a grotesque yada yada. Yeah, they could save a lot on special effects if they do a remake of The Fly with Lizzie Savetsky, The Mantis. This banner is used one or multiple times. All right. Sparky, some forward-thinking people on Tybee Island, Georgia, decades ago, made corporate stores or restaurants illegal. It's all mom and pop except for a Burger King grandfathered in. Cuba should do the same. Well, we should fucking do the same. Then the Cozy Burger wouldn't be closing over there. Vienticus Prime, wisdom doesn't come from us humans. Wisdom comes from nature. Why do you think for the longest time we gave lessons of wisdom through the actions of animals? You know, it's interesting, man. In Asia, they're really, almost to a point you would call it animism, really into like rivers and mountains as sources of wisdom and spiritual growth. Kenman G, Russ, thanks for sharing that shit smear landlord story. It always comes as I'm eating my lunch. You're welcome. Well, you know, I wanted to really get across who you're defending when you argue they shouldn't do this. I want people to defend not taking the building from the landlord with the scat play son living on the first floor.
Yeah,
Make
exactly.
that, please make a case for that.
Exactly.
$1 Million Trooper. These fake protesters are too lazy to rhyme East River with Hudson River. Also, if you want to threaten some bearded immigrants with some Brutus beefcake justice, a barber rhymes with harbor.
Well, also the harbor or bay. I mean, you can call it harbor, or New York Bay, New York Harbor, New York Bay, kind of the same thing. Bay is easier. I was thinking from the river to the bay, Andrew Cuomo's faking gay.
Yeah, they would never chat that.
Yeah.
But we could.
We could. Yeah.
Everything's a scam. Everything's a lie. Screw that Vienticus guy. I'm stealing his line.
Yeah.
That's it, man. You're on no. Well, he's doing all right. He owns a few properties.
Yeah.
He can afford to give up his line. Oh, George, Iran is calling it an environmental fee. Turkey does the same. It's legal that way, apparently. Well, there you go.
You could make you could finagle around it however you want. There was this guy who
it all
used
comes
to hang
down
out.
to what you call it.
Yeah, there's this guy who used to hang out on River Avenue near Yankee Stadium. He was an entrepreneur. He was a funny dude. He would basically, what he would do is he would beg for money, but he had a funny way of begging people for money when they parked their cars. He's like, so what I do is I stand here all night and make sure no one fucks with these cars, make sure no one breaks into these cars. So, if you could throw me a few bucks for my time, I'd appreciate it. He'd act like he's doing a job out there. He's like, working security volunteer and, he takes donations. So what you might want to do is put that premiere back to 3:30 and then I'll take some of these chats while you're doing that because we got a lot of chats and one more segment.
All right.
So you can finagle that while I do this. And I must remind people, it is Film Club night tonight. So 7 p.m., we will be back here on YouTube for a couple more segments, so kind of a semi-double header tonight. But if you want access to the full stream later on for the Dead End Drive-In Film Club presentation in partnership with our friends at Right Brain TV, these are the links, dudissidents.com/Patreon/Substack or /locals. So you guys are the backbone of the show. We do these kinds of things once a month as perks for members. So please do sign up. It's just $5 a month. It helps us tremendously. Thank you so much for your support. $1 Million Trooper says, I don't think married Mormons have to soak to get around the rules. To persist would imply some real deviant, kinky manga cosplay. Sign me up. Thank you. Joe Boo. I like that. I like that name. If a government prohibits people from building in or living on open land, they have an ethical and moral obligation to provide housing. Yeah, that's a good philosophical way of looking at it, too. EO Shush. The thing that would frustrate me in theory, the so-called real left would agree with Mamdani on 90% of issues, but would be called a sellout for the 10%. Charlie Kirk makes one anti-war tweet. And, oh, man, I wish I had the rest of that, but I see where you're going with it. I like where you're going with it. And that's a similar place to where we've gone with it, too. So thank you, EO Shush. Point taken, my friend. Point taken. Thank you very much. 3-Tom the Bomb. Everyone who watches this show should join a local community or political organization. Get involved in helping your neighbors. I choose CP, God bless America. P.S. We are not a death cult. ACP.us. I don't call anyone a death cult who, and what I mean by, if you're in a death cult is if you're just raging online. If you're doing mutual aid and stuff, no, I do not consider that a death cult, my friend. Thank you. Sparky, Gabber's right. In fact, prehistoric tribes defaulted to trade, not war. If it went well, they had homecoming every couple of years at a place between both groups, facilitating genetic diversity. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that very much. Muppy the puppy. Norm is right about this. There are many on the right who are just Nimrod J-haters. The real problem is there is not strong voice on the left fighting J supremacy. Well, yeah, I mean, both of those points were addressed there. So thank you, Muppy the puppy. Appreciate that. Scott Toon, thanks for the $4.99. I can't support you unless we agree 100% of the time. Forget the fact I contradict myself all the time. Thank you for that. Matt Boyer, isn't Norm just right, though? Putting Israel at the center of every conspiracy has proven that it distracts from the genocide. Half of these right-wingers who are now criticizing Israel are feds, too. I mean, I can't speak to the Fed point, but I could say I don't think they're being put at the center of every conspiracy. I think Israel's being put at the center of conspiracies that it's at the center of, like the Epstein files and like the Iran war, and perhaps maybe this last segment of the day here. So why don't we do that?
I've never heard anyone blame Jews for the fact that McDonald's beef patties never spoil.
Right, exactly. Like Israel's got nothing to do with that, I don't think. Ronan Bergman, an Israeli with New York Times, wrote a 1,000-page book talking about Mossad murder and blackmail. It's hardly a secret. Well, like I said, the movie that we talked about, Munich, I mean, that's all about that. Deborah Winger is friends with Norm and says she goes jogging with him regularly. He's in fantastic shape and physically active. Oh, yeah, no, he's in great shape.
Yeah. I mean, I was joking about the roids, but like for a guy that age, like he's pumped.
Exactly.
She lives in New York, Deborah Winger.
Does she? I don't know. Nick Cruz thinks Mamdani is a sellout.
She jogs with Norm all the time.
Yeah. Nick Cruz thinks Mamdani is a sellout liberal Zionist. So does Professor Morandi. They all need to get offline too. Are their brains broken? No, I didn't say that. And I whether he is a sellout in that way or not, whether he, is
yeah, he has said and done things we don't like.
He's not a revolutionary, is what I've said about him over and over again. He's a politician.
Right.
So you have to grade him in that respect. Right. Like if your metric, if your bar for everybody is that they have to be the leader of the revolution that you envision in your mind, or else there's no value in anything they do, well, then there's not going to be value in, 99.9% of people. That seems like a pretty bleak way to look at the world. So, no, I mean, criticisms of Mamdani are totally fair. I don't think that it is
and
fair
we have them.
Yes,
and we've made them.
Yes, I don't think it is fair to pretend that this proposal regarding housing and renters' rights and tenant security is to be discarded because he doesn't represent your version of who you think the next messianic figure on the left ought to be.
Exactly. And you're conflating two things. When I say broken brain, I'm talking about people who jump up to defend landlords. Because because Steve Forbes told you to. That's what I'm talking about when I say a broken brain.
Right.
In terms of the left, I have a more, a broader critique of like, listen, man, I mean, you could run around tearing down every person who's not lefty enough for you. You're just punching yourself in the dick. So that's basically my take. You're just punching yourself in the dick. You don't like Mamdani? All right. You're stuck with him.
Yeah. Right.
Stuck with him as your avatar, because that is who people are looking at to see. What does in power.
Right. You stand because they have influence on the right.
Yeah.
No, are we good on YouTube? It says connecting coder to go live. What happened? Oh no, we're good. Sorry. I thought my connection timed out. What the fuck is going on over there? We all right? We coming through on YouTube, everybody? Something happened with my monitor over here. Let me see. All right. Okay. Point taken, my friend. Thank you. All right. Yep. Frozen, stopped, dropped. Yeah, what the hell happened? Feds, shut it down. Just kidding. Take it down. Yeah, what's going on here?
Is it our luck?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like we're frozen. It's not cut off, but it's like yeah, we're not. Let me see if it's okay on Rumble.
Yeah, yeah. Like the chat is moving.
Oh, now I think we're back. I think we're back now.
Are we?
I think we're back now.
I'm seeing the picture frozen.
Yeah, but on Rumble Studio now it looks like we're back.
Now we're moving. Yeah, now we're moving. Yeah, so yeah. All right.
All right, are we back?
Yeah, now we're back. It looks like we're back.
We're back. Buffering better now. Okay, better now. Glitch. All right. Are we back? Are we back? We're back. YouTube. Where are we at, YouTube? Help us out, YouTube chat. Let's see. Let me just look on the Rumble chat. Rumble thing. All right. I got an ad for
Yeah, no. It's moving.
sponges that cure Lyme disease. Okay, great.
Yeah, we're good. All right.
Yeah, wait a minute. Something's going on.